Chapter 1203. Falco was a bit astonished but was happy to be alive nevertheless. However, something began to bug him after a couple of minutes of being awake. He could no longer feel Dark Falco. "Hey Darko, are you there? Answer me." No matter how much he tried, there was no reply. It was like Dark Falco had disappeared. "How long have I been out?" Falco inquired. "It's been 2 days," Timmy replied. 2 whole days? What the hell? Falco's face showed surprise. "Be grateful that you're even alive. Gustav explained to us how the Draconet's captain ability worked, and it felt like you shouldn't have even survived that," Timmy said with a sincere tone. He was still surprised even till now. Bang! A figure descended upon the head of a massive arthropod-looking light brown creature, blasting a hole through it. Blood and all sort of internal organs flew in every direction as the figure stepped out of the hole on the creature's head. "That's the last of them," Gus said to the others around him. "Man, things sure have gotten easier since the group got back together," he voiced as he snapped his finger, causing a violet-colored egg to fall out of a vortex above Gustav. Gustav caught the 3 feet large egg with his right arm and proceeded to keep it in his storage device. So whoosh, a green blur sped towards them from the east and arrived before Gustav. "Captain, there are no more eggs left within a 150 miles radius." The participant with green hair had around 6 eggs of different colors piling in his grasp, which towered over him. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. The eggs began floating, freeing the teammate from the difficulty of stabilizing them. "Good job, Wong," Gustav voiced as he tapped on his storage button. "Sing! Sing! Sing! Sing!" The eggs disappeared in the next instant as everyone else began gathering around Gustav. "Although, Captain, I don't see why we are gathering eggs we don't need," Wong voiced with a conflicted tone. "Alpha D Alpha to Theta Nu Epsilon." "How?" Wong asked once more. "You'll see when the time comes," Gustav responded with a small smirk. The others who were more familiar with Gustav could more or less tell what Gustav had in mind, and as usual it was something cunning. "Let's head back to the designated point for now," Gustav instructed. "It must have been really smooth sailing for you before the group got together," Glade said to Wong as they began their journey back to the designated point. "What? Why do you say that?" Wong questioned as they sped side by side. "Because you don't understand why Gustav needs those useless eggs. You definitely didn't get chased or accosted by other participants who wanted your egg." Glade spoke with a slight look of ridicule. Wong still had a look of confusion even after hearing that. "The useless eggs are mostly going to be used to deter teams that come after us in the future with the intention of taking our eggs," Endrick voiced from above. He was standing atop an invisible floating platform that flew forward, right above Glade and Wong. "Oh?" Wong had a look of realization mixed with contemplation after hearing that. He definitely didn't have to battle any greedy participants off. "I and Timmy even had to deal with those stinking Zionses," Glade stated. "I and Eldris had a group of Flokies chasing us for days too." He who was being lifted princess-style by Elevra as they flew yelled from above as well. Eldris chuckled as he recalled their experience. He got stripped," he voiced. Hey, foul man, you were supposed to keep it between both of us." He yelled with a look of injustice. Ha ha, I want to hear more about this." "How did it happen?" Matilda cackled from the side. As Eldris narrated, Elevra couldn't help but chuckle, causing E to yell out more in injustice. The group recounted their experiences on their way over to the designated point, bring laughter in most cases, as some were hilarious, and some were really so serious it had the group stunned. "Gustav, what about you? Anything interesting happen while you were waiting for us?" Abestos questioned. Roalpha di Alpha and Nu Haha, it's Gustav. Of course, many interesting things definitely happened with him," Matilda voiced. "The trouble magnet himself," he added with a chuckle. "I found another dimension within the 4th disc," Gustav voiced from up ahead as he maintained the same speed with the group. "Wait, what? Bro, I fucking knew it!" The group was both astonished and unsurprised at the same time. It was Gustav after all. He always got into all sorts of situations. Handler 1 didn't mention anything about another dimension, though. Vera's face showed a contemplative look. There are lots of Viander eggs in that dimension, Gustav voiced once more, causing their astonishment to turn into confusion. Viander eggs? Or eggs required to make a Viander egg? Elevera inquired. Ready-made Viander eggs, Gustav responded. He initially didn't want to tell the others about this, but he decided that there was no point in keeping it from them. They wondered if the handler didn't mention anything about it due to the already created Viander eggs and not wanting the participants to get off easy. Then why aren't we heading there instead of gathering required eggs? Yonda yelled with a look of dissatisfaction. Because there is no real means of getting in. There's a layer of protection on the way there that erases things from existence the moment they try to get past that point, Gustav explained. Eck. It erases anything? Sheila had a slightly fearful expression. Yes, Gustav replied. Then how did you get in? Ethelhor inquired. I moved too fast for the layer to successfully erase me completely, although I did lose an arm, Gustav responded once more. They were all shocked since everyone knew that right after Angie, Gustav was the fastest in the group, yet he lost an arm. That's how fast were you moving? Ria asked. Around 1,500 times faster than the speed of sound. Gustav gave them a rough estimate. Yeah, no way in hell any of us are getting past that layer. He instantly gave up upon hearing that. Can we just use spatial abilities? Abestos questioned. Endrick initially wanted to mention the use of spatial abilities, but he realized Gustav would have already mentioned it if it was plausible. Won't work. You can only use it within and outside of the dimension, but you cannot use it to get in or out of it. Gustav shook his head. Although he knew there was most likely another way to get in due to the Diaperonian candidate that somehow ended up in there, but he decided not to mention this since he hadn't figured it out. The group soon arrived back at the designated point to see that Falco had regained consciousness. Man, you were out for some time, but you didn't miss much. He instantly began chatting with Falco upon their return. The group brought out the rest of the required colored eggs they had gathered and began placing them in the machine. Soon they had acquired another 2 Viander eggs, which Gustav proceeded to keep in his storage device. How many Viander eggs have we gathered in total now? Falco questioned. 17. Gustav responded. 17. Falco had a shocked expression on his face as he voiced out. Yeah, Gustav managed to find a dimension with already created Viander eggs and got a couple from there, added with the ones we all gathered separately and together. Matilda counted with her fingers as she elaborated. The group sat together and began plotting their next step from here. There was no doubt that they had gathered quite the sum, but they still needed more since they were unaware of how much other teams had gathered currently. We need to leave this region completely and explore another one. While I agree with that, by tomorrow the scoreboard will appear again to show the number of eggs every planet has gathered so far. If we acquire more eggs than everyone, we become a target. We should take our time. We don't really have time to laze around since the eggs are limited. Let's keep gathering eggs, but we won't make any more Viander eggs till after tomorrow. Gustav decided to go with what he did a week ago. The group decided to go with that and decided on which direction to head in. During their time at the designated point, a few participants had approached but didn't misbehave after seeing their numbers. If we end up being the planet with the highest number of eggs after tomorrow's scoreboard revelation, we will need a place to lay low, Falco voiced. I thought of that too initially, but no, let's not do that unless the gap is insurmountable. We'd be giving others the chance to increase their eggs while hiding ourselves. Gustav shook his head. If they want to steal from us, well, steal from them instead, Gustav stated. Chapter 1204, The Towering Statues Terrains. If they want to steal from us, well, steal from them instead, Gustav stated. Yeehaha! Those motherfuck *RS can bring it on! He yelled with fired-up spirit. This way would also be able to increase the number of eggs we have while others are stealing from one another as well. Ildris also agreed with the decision. Are you up for it? Gustav asked Falco while placing a hand on his shoulder. Of course, why not? Falco responded with a wry smile. Good, Gustav voiced. Falco walked away with a contemplative look to wait for the others outside the Iroh's silk cover. Darko, where the hell are you? He wondered internally as he raised his right palm. He isn't alright. The system voiced in Gustav's mind while he deactivated the Iroh's silk. I know, but I won't push it unless he asks for my help, Gustav replied internally. Guys, shall we? He proceeded to conjure a large vortex. The group proceeded to move into the vortex and reappeared a great distance away. Yes, spatial abilities had become so powerful that he could open a vortex in space while standing on the surface of a planet. His range had improved a great deal as well as many other aspects since their time at the oasis. The group wasted no time in searching for eggs upon arriving at a new environment. This was a sparse forest of frosty trees which happened to have a sloppy terrain. Gustav's first action was scanning the entire vicinity and telling his teammates which direction to head in to gather eggs. They soon cleared the area of required colored eggs and moved on to the next. He ensured to conjure a vortex that was close to 1,000 miles away just to make sure they were away from the vicinity completely. Gustav would always make sure to spread his senses around so he could inform the group when there was nothing left. Occasionally, they came across different participants of other planets, but they continued on with their business, and only left if Gustav sensed that there was no eggs around. After many hours had gone by, they arrived in another area that happened to be silent and very gloomy. What stood out to them were the massive statue towers arranged in rows and columns across the surroundings. These statues were around 3,000 feet in height, and each of them looked similar to handlers with insect-like head and antennas that held their eyeballs. However, each of these frosty statues held on to different weapons, each just as massive as they were, and Gustav calculated that there were at least 10,000 statues. Since the statues were lined up in rows and columns, there were passable spaces in between them despite their figures covering up the entire vicinity. Is this ominous to you guys? Or it's just me? He broke the silence as they stepped forward. Everything has been ominous since the Vinder challenge began, Falco said. Yes, but super ominous. It seems like the statues are glaring at us. He responded. That's because they actually are, Gustav replied, causing everyone to show startled looks. This is one of Thoth's challenge areas on THS 4th disk where passing would get us eggs. Elevra seemed to have figured it out. She is right. If we don't go around this AEA and decide to pass through, we are technically accepting whatever challenge this place has for us, Gustav responded. He and some of the others didn't realize this because they didn't encounter a similar terrain on their way to the designated point they were supposed to meet up at. Elevra, on the other hand, already engaged in some challenges herself. Although it was different from this, she was instantly able to recognize this as one after viewing the similarities. The challenges are not very beneficial since they only grant a single required egg after completion, Elevra voiced out. It wouldn't be very beneficial if it was a single person, but we're 20, which also means 20 eggs, Ildra stated. Everyone nodded in agreement. 20 required colored eggs would be acquired if they were all successful. Let's go, Gustav instructed. Everyone began stepping forward while activating their bloodline energies in preparation for what was to come. The instant they walked past the middle of the first statues before them, the eyeballs of the statues emitted a bright aqua glow. Bang! Bang! 2 statues ahead suddenly dropped their arms to the side, slamming their weapons to the ground in between the space in their midst, blocking the path of the group. Their axes-like weapons instantly emitted frosty fog that spread across the vicinity. Usually they were unaffected by the intense coldness of the 4th disk. However, once this frost fog spread around, everyone felt their speed decreasing. It was like the frost had seeped into them and began to slow everything in their bodies down, including the flow of bloodline energy from their channels. Watch out! Elevra quickly pushed E out of the way as the ground around them suddenly crumbled and a massive spiky ball shot out of it. It looked incredibly gigantic but wasn't half the size of the statues around. Spread out! Gustav instructed as he kicked the ball. Bang! A loud collision reverberated across the vicinity as it ascended further into the air, but then Gustav noticed that half his leg was covered in frost. HNG! He hissed in pain and quickly emitted flames from his body. However, the frost remained. Don't touch the ball! Gustav yelled as the ball began descending from the air. Sfai! 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 The massive spiky ball made of frost suddenly multiplied in mid-air as it descended. Move now! Gustav yelled to the others to begin heading forward. They split in different directions, avoiding the path that was blocked by the massive axes of the two statues. Hover, Gustav conjured an atomic blade as he floated a little above the ground while speeding forward in between multiple statues. Slash! He swung downwards, cleaving his right leg off. Plop! Blood flowed out like a fountain as his leg fell to the frosty, sloppy ground and began rolling down. He hardly flinched as he snapped his fingers, causing a milky glow to fall on his cleaved-off leg. The leg began disintegrating into light particles as he kept flying forward. One of the split massive spiky balls followed him from behind as he sped forward. Bang! 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 Weapons suddenly descended up ahead, blocking the path with the balls still chasing from behind. The surrounding statues also made their weapons descend, blocking the left and the right to cut off escape as more frost spread across the vicinity. Thump! Gustav wasted no time in flying upwards so as to go over the spaces left above the weapons that blocked his path. All of a sudden, fly! Two statues let go of their weapons and swung their hands backwards. Pa! Gustav was instantly slapped backwards as soon as he reached a particular height. Thump! The spiky ball ascended into the air at this same moment, and it seemed like Gustav's catapulted body would slam into it with his back. Sing! The Jiko Hakai katana appeared in his grasp in the last instant as he spun a little over and swung his hand downwards to hit the ball so as to completely avoid making contact with it. Thryrii! In the slight millisecond of the katana blade making contact with the ball, frost spread from it to Gustav's forearm. Thyanin! The collision sent the ball tumbling downwards with a metallic echo spreading across the vicinity, while Gustav landed a couple of feet behind on his left leg. Mental manipulation has been activated. Guys, make sure you don't make any sort of contact with the ice ball even if you make use of an extendable object, Gustav quickly warned through Mind Link. Vera, who was about making use of one of the vines from the forestry surrounding her being to capture a ball, quickly paused. The vines happened to be attached to her body as well, so fortunately for her she avoided getting turned into frost like Gustav. Things were a walk in the park free, as he kept conjuring vortexes that sent the balls to another location, while he sped away. He didn't try conjuring a vortex that would take him past the challenge area because they were unaware if that would result in disqualification, and he wasn't willing to risk it since they needed the eggs. Gustav cleaved his entire right arm as he sped to the side and began flying to escape the ice ball and the blocked paths. At this point, "I'll turn limbless," Gustav voiced as he kept flying forward. He quickly arrived at an unblocked area and turned around to resume speeding forward. You could easily destroy the ice ball without making contact, but you risk disqualification since it looks like the challenge is to escape them, the system stated. I am aware, and you're not helping. Gustav's only reason for attacking the balls were to deter them and avoid making any contact. Chapter 12:05 I am aware, and you're not helping. Gustav's only reason for attacking the balls were to deter them and avoid making any contact. He was never trying to destroy them in the first place. Fly high! As the group made it past a quarter of the statue challenge terrain, the statues behind suddenly stabbed their weapons downwards. Bang! 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 The statues behind, lined in horizontal format, blocked the path with their weapons slamming into the ground. The ice balls chasing after Gustav and the others were completely blocked off and could no longer chase them. Phew, that was something. He heaved a sigh of relief as the group came together once more. Man, you didn't even have any issues, Timmy voiced with a slight tone of annoyance. Gustav, are you okay? Vera questioned as they stared at Gustav standing with a single leg and missing an arm as well. It will grow back, Gustav stated. Don't let your guard down. We're not out of the clear yet. He quickly added before the group could ask any more questions. We've definitely entered another stage of the challenge, Ildris stated as they peered forward with intrigued and wary gazes. We should. Just as Falco was about to suggest something, the ground began caving in around them. KRRRYYCCCHH. Dia. As the icy sloppy ground caved in around them, they were forced to head towards the middle path as it seemed to be the only unaffected area. The statues remained standing in the vicinity despite the crumbling grounds. The team arrived in the middle path, which was large enough for them to stand side by side. Looking over the edge, they could see a water body hundreds of feet below where the grounds had caved in. God Eyes has been activated. It is as I suspected, the water below us is not ordinary, Gustav informed the others, the instant he inspected the liquid below. A metal bar appeared in Gustav's grasp from his storage space, which he proceeded to drop as he stood before the ledge. As the bar fell towards the liquid below, it began freezing up, before turning into a complete chunk of ice in mid-air. It hit the liquid moments later and drowned in it, which meant the body water below them was extremely cold. Cold enough for the mist emitting from it to turn anything or anyone into a statue of frost before they even hit the surface, yet the water body remained liquid. We just gotta make sure we don't fall in, right? Ria said while gulping down saliva. I don't think they intend to let us make it through. E voiced while pointing at the statues lining up on the sides of the path up ahead. Thyaning high. The eyes emitted a silver gleam as they raised the weapons in their hands. Move, Gustav instructed. Bang! Everyone dashed forward as quickly as they could, missing the descent of a massive club-like weapon that slammed into the path. KRRYCHHHH. Web-like cracks spread across the place as the path began to split open. The group had rushed forth so they escaped the area of impact. However, up ahead, the other statues were swinging their weapons downwards and backwards. Fwyi! Gustav jumped slightly as he reached a particular distance. A massive blade, the size of a 5-story building, swept below him as he ascended, sending blistering winds across the vicinity. Regeneration complete. Watch out, Gustav warned the others since he happened to be ahead. Unfortunately, he seemed to be the one in need of this warning as a massive staff-like weapon shot forward, heading in his direction as he had ascended to the exact height needed to make contact. His entire figure had been covered up by the looming shadow of this gigantic staff which had arrived before him in an instant. Gustav swiftly reacted by stepping forward in mid-air. Dash has been activated, swoosh! He sped across the tip of the massive spear, arriving atop its body in an instant. Whoosh! Rho Alpha D Alpha and Nu Data Theta Nu Epsilon Mi's teammates, who were initially worried, showed expressions of relief as they also did well to avoid the oncoming onslaughts of the statues. Bang! 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 Timmy had conjured a spherical red enclosure that encompassed his entire being as he flew forward and zigzagged his way across the path to dodge the weapons. Don't try to parry the attacks, just do your best to escape them, Gustav announced up ahead as he did multiple front flips in mid-air, dodging massive metal balls that shot forward from a cannon-like weapon in the grasp of one of the statues. Snap! Massive vortexes opened up, swallowing the weapons in ES path and appearing far in the sky. Elevra and a few others who happened to trail behind him had no issues with the attacks of the statues. They only had to make sure they were quick enough to escape the areas affected by the collision of the weapons which caused the path to cave in. Show off! Glade made a low tch as she jumped and swerved sideways repeatedly, dodging the flurry of attacks while watching Teeny escape them effortlessly. It's not my fault you chose weaker abilities, Timmy shrugged. A gigantic axe-like weapon swung downwards before Gustav, which he proceeded to latch onto. The statue lifted its weapon back in the air unbeknownst to it that Gustav held onto it. After ascending more than 1,000 feet in the air, Gustav leapt off the axe. Guys, the path ahead is missing and there are ghastly-looking hands extending from the liquid below, Gustav informed them as he sped forward. Can't we just leap over? Or better still, he could open a vortex for us to get past that area, Timmy and Falco questioned through the mind link. If only it were that simple, Gustav proceeded to explain that there happened to be a barrier of sorts ahead that would prevent them from getting to where the path resumed. If they decided to leap over, they would slam into the barrier and fall into the liquid below or get dragged into it by the massive hands protruding from it. If he was to open a vortex and they got past the barrier due to that, it might count as disqualification since he had noticed a small platform that extended from the surface of the water body below. This platform was in the middle of the sunken area and the arms protruding from the water body were surrounding it. The platform has a standpoint that I believe deactivates the barrier so everyone would be able to leap over and arrive on the new path. The instant Gustav got to this point he descended from above with speed. Why? Leap now. Gustav's presence had attracted the hands which shot forward in an attempt to grab him. Bang! The instant Gustav landed on the platform, his teammates leapt forward simultaneously while the barrier got deactivated. The small platform, which was only 2 feet in length and breadth, really had no space for Gustav to escape in as the hands tried to wrap around his figure. Size manipulation has been activated. Unfortunately for them, Gustav evaded the reaches one after the other as he decreased and increased his body size as desired. The liquid hands would squeeze up thinking they had the gruesome being in their grasp until to notice he was standing on the platform finger-sized. Swai. Gustav would occasionally change size, becoming either as thin as a piece of paper and slanting backwards of making himself very little. After a few seconds of evasion, the arms all reached out at the same time to grab him in frustration, but Gustav had already achieved his goal so he didn't need to stay here any longer. Size manipulation has been deactivated, thum. Gustav leapt off the platform instantly, arriving at the start of a new path. They all headed forward together the instant he arrived there. Now they had crossed another 2/4 of the terrain that the massive statues covered. Only 1/4 was left. 30 minutes later. That was kinda exciting, Matilda voiced as the group walked together across a ridge while holding on to different colors of eggs. A couple 100 feet behind them was a terrain of massive frosted-looking statues. It got smaller, the further they walked. We could have scaled through that easily if it was a battle. It's no fun to just evade things, I want to break things. Glade spoke with a slightly irritated tone. Maybe could learn from this instead of seeing it as a chore due to restrictions. Ildris voiced with a smile as his silver hair fluttered in the wind. Chapter 1206. Maybe could learn from this instead of seeing it as a chore due to restrictions. Ildris voiced with a smile as his silver hair fluttered in the wind. I have said this before, not every battle will be a battle of strength or power. Gustav voiced with calm tone. There will be battles you cannot win with just your fists. That is where your wits and intelligence comes in. He added. Indeed, intelligence is power, but power isn't always intelligence, and something intelligence could save you where power fails. Ildris voiced out as well, causing the teammates to show expressions of understanding. I see why they are the captains of the team. Wong voiced with a tone of inspiration. Glade kept quiet, while everyone handed their eggs over to Gustav so he could keep them in his storage device. We should head back to the designated point, Falco suggested. Thaish. Immediately after Falco spoke, screen projections began appearing in the sky. The scoreboards are here. Every participant across the fourth disk gazed upwards with expressions of intrigue. 1. Planet Earth, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 2. Planet Diapronian, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. 3. Planet Osius, 12 Viander eggs greater than 4,800 points. 4. Planet Draconet, 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 5. Planet Hixto, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 6. Planet Diov, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 7. Planet Indulus Prime, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 8. Planet Tribtes, 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000.9. Planet Gundabalt, 9 Viander eggs greater than 3,600.10. Planet Zillion, 8 Viander eggs greater than 3,200.11. Planet Klaxosate, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.12. Planet Oxlurk, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.13. Planet Cyrus, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.14. Planet Osiris, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.15. Planet Orion, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.16. Planet Astambid, 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.17. Planet Va, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.18. Planet Roidenstack, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.19. Planet V#B, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.20. Planet Kivendale, 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.21. Planet T429, 6 Viander eggs 2,400. The list continued until it reached the number 1897, displaying the scores of all the planets currently participating in ISUP. We're number 1, Matilda voiced with a tone of excitement. Oh shit, we are number 1. He stated as well with excitement, then a look of realization dawned on him. We're number 1, that's also bad, isn't it? He questioned. Yeah, we become targets. Gustav nodded. But like I said, if they come to take from us, we will take from them instead, Gustav added. It doesn't really seem like there is much to take from others, Falco said while still staring up. From the numbers 527, the planets beneath hadn't managed to acquire a single Viander egg. This meant there were currently over 1,000 planets without a single point. If these planets banded together out of desperation and went after the others, it would turn into a difficult war down here. If we're also being honest, only around 200 planets are worth getting worried about. The rest aren't that strong. Wang shrugged his shoulders while speaking. Don't underestimate the strength in numbers, Ildris voiced with a tone of caution. Well, tread carefully and only partake in battles that we can handle. If push comes to shove, we can also leave. Gustav finally spoke, since they could easily escape from any situation that was out of their control. Only 1 week more till the Viander challenge ends. We can do this, Abestos said with a look of motivation. However, Gustav's face currently displayed a suspicious expression as he glared at the planet in second place. Diaperonians. They weren't even top 400 the last time. His mind instantly traveled back to the dead Diaperonian candidate that the Zerg chief turned into his slave. Rho-Alpha D-Alpha and Nu-Omid can't be a coincidence. They must be aware of the existence of that dimension, if they haven't already infiltrated it. With this thought in mind, Gustav felt their position as number 1 could be threatened. The Diaperonians weren't even seen as a challenge initially due to their weakness, so the reveal of the scoreboard must have surprised everyone. Earth was still considered one of the leading bodies of the Alliance, so it wouldn't be so surprising to see them at the top. The same couldn't be said for the Diaperonians. We need to gather more eggs, Gustav stated. I don't think we can, Falco suddenly voiced out. I just calculated the total number of Viander eggs that has been acquired, and only around 7 are left that can be created, Falco added. Yeah, after we create more Viander eggs from the eggs currently in our possession, only around 3 will be left, Gustav replied, as he was well aware that it would be a little more than 3 since he had acquired some eggs from that other dimension. However, without a doubt, there were very few number of required colored eggs left on the 4th disk, and acquiring them before other planets got hold of them was close to impossible. The 4th disk was still stupendously immense, and trying to scour its entirety before a week was up would be a completely impossible mission. The other planets would not just sit still and let others gather the rest of the required colored eggs either. So how do we gather more eggs, since none are practically left at this moment? Or are getting it from others like you said? Falco inquired. We won't be taking the initiative to approach anyone unless they approach us first, so no. Well, head to that dimension I spoke of and gather a couple of eggs. I have a feeling I am not the only one that knows how to get there, Gustav voiced with his tone hinting suspiciousness. I thought you said, I know what I said. Gustav cut Rhea off before he could complete his sentence. We'll just have to find another way in, Gustav added. How do we do that? Glade questioned. I guess he'll have to ask someone who knows. Gustav's reply was cryptic, but the others already knew how he was. It just meant he already had a plan in mind which he has decided to follow through with. The group began hurrying back to the designated point. Alpha de Alpha to Theta nu Epsilon Theta. A few hours later. We have 20 Vinder eggs now. Do we really need to go to this other dimension to get more? Falco questioned with a slightly wary look. Yeah, we do, Gustav responded while deactivating the Iroh silk around the designated point. Why don't we just stay here, hide out, and protect ourselves? I think we'll still win, Falco suggested. I'm with Falco on this. You said it yourself that the other dimension was really dangerous even for you. Matilda voiced out as well. In that dimension I counted close to 100 Viander eggs and I took only 4, which means if other participants found it, and managed to scale through the dangers, they could possibly acquire way more than we currently have. Well, if you guys are okay with losing, then it's fine, Gustav responded with an unbothered tone. What? Someone else has found the place? Rhea yelled with a look of concern. You didn't tell us everything, Filher said with a tone of suspiciousness. Did you meet another participant there? Yonda questioned. Do they count as a participant if they're dead? This question took everyone by surprise as they stared at Gustav with expressions of confoundment and contemplation. Either way, it's a bit too complicated for y'all to understand, but understand that there is no guarantee that we will win even though we are currently number 1, Gustav voiced. How do we get there? Ildris questioned. That's what I want to figure out, Gustav voiced as his body levitated. Hover has been activated. Follow me, he instructed before flying forward. Fwishishim, the group wasted no time in following after Gustav. After some time, the group stood before what looked like a gargantuan chasm. It looked like a split on the 4th disc, but it was so massive that the bottom could not be spotted, neither could the other end of the chasm due to the intense width. All that could be seen from up here was darkness. It really looked like the end of the 4th disc, but Gustav was well aware that it wasn't. This is how I got in. Gustav pointed at the endless darkness, gazing back at them below. That looks like a way off the planet, Matilda said with a wary tone. Not all of them could fly like Gustav, so this was a dangerous spot to be in. It isn't. You guys just wait for me here. I'll be back as soon as I can, Gustav said before stepping forward. Fwaiwiai, the group watched him free fall into the jaws of darkness below. His figure soon disappeared from their sight after a few moments. He's gonna be fine, right? Wong questioned, causing everyone to stare at him with a weird expression. It's Gustav, a couple of them voiced simultaneously. I tend to worry more about his oppositions more than I worry about him, Fildhor added. Chapter 1207s. I tend to worry more about his oppositions more than I worry about him, Fildhor added. 600,000 feet, 700,000 feet, 800,000 feet. You're there, I am aware, sure you are. You're only useful in telling me information that I am already aware of, which makes you useless. You're the useless one. Humph. Gustav ignored the system and activated Ultimate Combination. Immediately after his body finished transforming, he built up a tremendous amount of energy around him as he prepared to speed downwards past the layer that erased things from existence. Lightning Blitz has been activated. Threraz coupling Lightning Blitz with the speed of his Ultimate Combination, Gustav's form transformed into a silver lightning streak. I need you to show me where you found the corpse, Gustav stated as he stood before a massive 20 feet tall figure with an upside-down horn. Is that why you have returned, Savior? The chief of the Zergs questioned with a wary expression. Yes. There is something I have to investigate, Gustav stated in response. The chief of the Zergs turned to stare in a particular direction, which Gustav's eyes also followed. There? Gustav pointed at what looked like a passageway by the side of a large rocky wall. One could easily fall from this ledge of this passageway since its right had no railing or wall, whereas the wall of this chasm was located on the left. It extended into the distance, farther than the normal eye could reach. "I'll take you there," the chief of the Zerg's voice before turning to the side and stepping forward. The wall of the chasm was quite distant, and Gustav didn't want to waste any time, so he quickly sped forward. "Whoosh! Just direct me," Gustav voiced as he picked up the 20 feet large chief and leapt into the air. They soon arrived at the wall of the chasm and stepped onto the platform that extended from it into the distance. The land was soon far from them, as all that could be spotted on the side was another endless looming depth with fog all over. A couple of minutes later, Gustav and the chief arrived at a part of the chasm wall which had a boulder-sized hole. There was a small space within which looked like a cave, but it was completely empty. "This was where I found both of them," the chief of the Zergs stated while hinting at the hole. "Them? You found more than one?" Gustav questioned with a look of confoundment. "Yes, Savior. After you left the last time, patrolling guard Zergs found yet another corpse similar looking to the one I turned into my slave," the chief of the Zergs stated. "Another Diaperonian dead? There's something off about this whole thing," Gustav thought after hearing this. "So you have another slave now?" Gustav questioned. "Unfortunately, the guards found the corpse too late. I was unable to bring the corpse back to life." The chief of the Zergs shook his head. "You said this was not too long after I left?" Gustav inquired. "Yes, Savior. We found nothing else here, but this is the same place where the one I resurrected appeared as well," the chief of the Zergs confirmed. "Something is definitely fishy. The first one was already suspicious, but with the second, I can be sure that something is going on just as I thought," Gustav said internally. "It is just as you humans say, lightning never strikes in the same place twice," the system inputted. No one uses that term these days. "Mixed bloods with such abilities could do that," Gustav said internally. "You know what I mean," the system voiced. "New quest has been issued." Gustav saw a notification pop up in his line of sight at this moment. "Really? Right now?" Gustav voiced out loud. "Savior?" The chief of the Zergs had a look of confusion. "You can leave now. I'll be here in the meantime," Gustav said to the chief of the Zergs. The chief bowed slightly before turning around to start walking away. "Tell your guards not to approach this area as well," Gustav voiced as the chief walked away. He paused briefly before turning around to bow slightly. The Zergs were incredibly fearful of Gustav's existence, so they never questioned anything he said. A person that could render their special ability useless, and even use a better one against them, was to be feared from their point of view. Successfully bring the rest of Earth's candidate into the dimension in between the 4th and 5th disk, duration, 48 hours, failure punishment, -1,000,000 EXP, success rewards, +10, 000 EXP row alpha d alpha and new underscore 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 underscore. Gustav stared at the details of the quest before questioning. "Planet Ozius hours or Earth hours?" "Planet Ozius, obviously, since we're far from Earth right now," the system responded. "All right. This was the plan before the quest anyway, so it doesn't really matter," Gustav voiced as he stepped into the cave. God Eyes has been activated. Residual DNA samples and small specks of energy in the environment shows that there have been more than 2 people here, Gustav voiced as he squatted within the cave. "And the others were not the Zergs, they were Diaperonians as well." Gustav could see microscopic-level tissues from the goo that would usually cover their bodies, and something else he couldn't explain at the moment. Millions of theories were going through his head as he scanned the area for a few more seconds before making a decision. Gustav's body morphed quickly as he placed his back to a part of the wall of the cave. In the next moment, he had become a part of the rough walls of the cave. Cognitive concealment has been activated. At the same moment, his presence completely disappeared as he blended into the surroundings. If a person was to step into this place, they would be totally unaware that a living being was in the vicinity. "How long has it been now?" Glade questioned as the group sat before the massive chasm. Roughly a day. I didn't think he would take this long, Falco said with a slightly worried expression. He must be experiencing troubles, I guess, Wang voiced. We just have to wait. I'm sure he will appear any time now, Ildris said with a tone of encouragement. Seems like something else is appearing instead, Matilda voiced while pointing at the east skies. Oh! Sheila's eyes knitted. What looked like a purple cloud was approaching, but on closer look, it was actually a swarm. A purple swarm of tiny triangular particles approaching at insane speed. That's not all, Elevra called out to the rest of the group after taking off the head tie covering her forehead. The purplish eyeball embedded into her forehead twitched repeatedly as it gleamed dangerously. There are 6 more groups approaching, but they are still far behind, she voiced. Looks like it has begun, Abestos voiced as everyone stood to their feet and began activating their bloodlines. How did they even find us? Wang questioned with a concerned tone. That shouldn't be our focus right now. Let's take them down, Ildris voiced with a smile, while his eye remained closed. Send that swarm away, he instructed. Sure thing. Eyes gleamed with violet-colored energy as he twirled his fingers. Zuzim. Alpha D Alpha to Theta Nu Epsilon E. He pushed his palm forward and the vortex obeyed his command, driving forward to swallow everything in its path. Duration: 48 hours. Time elapsed: 38 hours. Looks like you're running out of time, the system voiced. I am aware, but I still have to wait. I cannot risk trying to bring them in with just my abilities. Sure, Dumbo. Within the cave by the wall of the chasm, Gustav remained a piece of rock that blended into the surroundings and had been waiting for over a day. If my speculations are correct, it should be happening any time soon, Gustav thought. -10 minutes later, any time soon, 20 minutes later, any time soon, 30 minutes later, any time from now, 1 hour later. I swear if you say any time soon again, I'll develop a real body and punch you in the face. The girly voice of the system sounded frustrated. But, it should be happening any time soon. You little. Just as the system was about to berate him again, a small whitish spark appeared in the middle of the cave. Hold, Gustav stated as he felt a whirling sensation. Thayin. In the next instant, an ashy goo-covered corpse appeared in the cave. Bam! It fell to the floor of the cave, causing goo to spread across the place. However, nothing else happened. That can't be it, Gustav voiced as he swiftly shape-shifted back into his original look. Fyi. He noticed the white spark that brought the corpse here disappearing and quickly reached out to grab it. Gustav felt a mythical pull in the next instant as his entire frame suddenly disappeared into the spark. Chapter 1208. Gustav felt a mythical pull in the next instant as his entire frame suddenly disappeared into the spark. In the next instant, Gustav found himself standing atop a small rock surrounded by a body of sparkling green water. Who in the name of the gods is this? A loud yell welcomed his arrival. Gustav noticed that besides the rock protruding from the surface of this green body of water, a group of 17 people with ashy goo covering their entire body surrounded him. On the rock was a formation of unknown glyphics, shapes and lines that emitted a white glow. A small dark portal began opening up ahead on the body of water, while the participants around him glared at him in confusion and disbelief. Diaperonians, that means... Gustav instantly put 2 and 2 together. At this moment, all of the dots connected and he was finally able to tell exactly what was going on. How did an earthling get here from the circle? Restrain him first, while ask him questions later, they yelled out as snake-like creatures burrowed out of where their eyes were located. However, they were too slow as Gustav's eyes were already emitting a pink and reddish glow shaped like a cross on his irises. A small wave of energy spread forth from Gustav being as he activated Yarki on a very small scale. What is going on? I can't move. I think this earthling is... Gustav Crimson. There, Captain? The Diaperonians had shaky tones as they barely managed to utter words in their frozen states. Bam! 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 They began falling to their knees within the water, which happened to be at their chest area currently. They had only just realized who Gustav was, but they were still astonished because no one was aware that he possessed such an ability. They only had the intuition that he was amongst the strongest participants. As the portal opened up before Gustav, he inspected it for a moment before turning to stare at one of the Diaperonians. "This leads to that other dimension within the fourth disc, right?" he asked. How does he know about that? This was the question running through their minds as they knelt in place. Gustav didn't need an answer to what he was sure about. He climbed down from the rock and began tapping on the dimensional bracelet strapped to his left wrist. "Now y'all hold on to one another," Gustav voiced, which in turn caused them to move forward till they were making contact in a perfect circular formation. After picking a checkpoint, he tapped onto the gooey shoulder of one of the Diaperonians. "What is he doing? We need to break free from this right now." 3. We're in trouble. 2. No matter how much the Diaperonians tried, they couldn't break free from Gustav's Yarki. 1. Alpha D Alpha to Theta Nu Epsilon. A flash of blue light encapsulated the entire vicinity, and in the next instant, the Diaperonians were all gone. "The portal is closing, you have less than 5 seconds, the system voiced in Gustav's mind. 15 seconds should be plausible. Gustav was already picking another checkpoint the instant the Diaperonians were gone. This checkpoint was one he had left at the edge of the chasm before jumping into it to head to the other dimension. 3, 2, 1. Another flash of blue light encapsulated Gustav's frame as he vanished in the next moment. Boom! 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 The instant Gustav arrived at his destination, he was met with mighty waves of destruction that sent shockwaves all across the place. "I was only gone for almost 2 days, that's a lot of time," the system voiced. "We don't have time for this," Gustav said as his perception spread across the vicinity. He was facing a bunch of participants with gem-like bodies alongside Eldris. Endrik was in midair, swinging his hand down and causing a calamitous disaster across the vicinity as massive telekinetic palms descended. Rho Alpha D Alpha Nu Amalevra was on the west with flying forward as a purplish beam shot downwards from her forehead, causing a rift in the ground below. The whole team was in a heated battle with multiple other planet groups, and it was very heated at the moment. "Mental manipulation has been activated. Get everyone to me right now." Gustav made use of MindLink to quickly pass a message. He who was thousands of feet away turned around and spotted Gustav. "You're back, we have limited time, do it now." Gustav quickly cut E off before he could say any more. He wasted no time in clasping his hands together and turning them before separating his palms. Vortexes began to open all across the vicinity, which pulled every single Earth participants into it. A vortex opened before Gustav, who was already tapping on his dimensional bracelet. The instant everyone began appearing from the vortex in duos or trios, the dimensional bracelet began counting down. "Hold on to each other right now," Gustav instructed as soon as they arrived. 3. At the same time, Gustav felt the approaching presences of the other participants around. They were over 100 in number, speeding towards them right now. Gustav had no doubt that some of them would arrive before the dimensional bracelet teleported them out of here, and he couldn't risk letting any one of them ruin it. Blurrig! His body bloated slightly as he turned greenish and stomped on the ground. 2. Icicle-like rocks shot out of the ground at very quick pace, surrounding the entirety of the Earth participants like a barricade. 1. At this same moment, multiple of the participants around had began attacking the barricade, causing the space within to tremble immensely. Gustav reached out to grab Eildra's shoulder at this point, since everyone had formed a circle where they held each other. 0. Thaying. The other planet participants attacking the Iroh silk barricade from the outside could see rays of blinding blue glow poking out of the small spaces in between the Iroh silk. In the next instant, the Earth participants were gone. "Get in right away," Gustav instructed the instant everyone arrived within a small body of green water with a rock protruding out of its surface ahead. They could see a dark-looking portal ahead of the rock that seemed to be decreasing in size already. They didn't ask questions and quickly sped forward before the portal could close up completely. Swoosh! Gustav sped right into it at the last millisecond after everyone was in. The portal completely disappeared that instant, and the surroundings were left in utter silence. How dare him! He stole our blood! Our hard work! Within an area with caves and a burning frosted tree up ahead, a group of participants with ashy goo-covered body could be seen sprawled all over. One of them melted completely onto the terrain and swiveled across the icy ground towards the bottom of the blazing frosty tree. How did he even know what we were up to? A mouth that had formed from the goo that seemed to have gone splat on the ground began speaking. No matter how much we think about it, I don't think we will figure it out unless we ask him first. We must have our revenge. The other Diaperonians voiced with tones of dissatisfaction. I understand everyone's rage, but right now we should be focused on one thing. Winning the Viander challenge. The Diaperonian on the ground, who seemed to be the captain, stated. Since Gustav Crimson, the Earth Captain, must have made use of the portal, he is aware of the other dimension and obviously intends to gather more eggs. We have to get there as soon as we can to gather more. I am sure he is unaware of the process and knows nothing about the timer, so we can still best them. The Diaperonian captain voiced. Just as another one of them was about to speak, they were interrupted by a raspy and loud voice from behind. Did you just mention Gustav Crimson? A participant with completely dark wraps of bandage-like clothes covering his entire body could be seen approaching them. His eyes were extremely dark and soulless, emitting an enchanting pull as his figure emitted dark mist as well. I mean no harm, neither do I approach with malicious intent. The dark figure spoke. I just need you to tell me about what happened with Gustav Crimson. Your information will be much appreciated, he added. The Diaperonians' eyes could not be seen due to the goo that covered their body, but it was obvious that they were currently staring at each other. Well, this is what happened. The captain went on to narrate their encounter with Gustav while leaving out details of their plans and what they were doing in that location in the first place. The dark figure didn't seem to care about what they purpose there was, he was only interested in the actions Gustav performed there. Chapter 1209 Clash with the Diaperonians. The dark figure didn't seem to care about what they purpose there was, he was only interested in the actions Gustav performed there. So you all were rendered immobile by this strange force he emitted? The dark figure questioned. As insane as it sounds, yes. It was like our will was stripped from us, and now belonged to him. His eyes glowed a strange color. The world turned to that color his eyes emitted for a bit. The captain explained. I see, thank you for your cooperation. The dark figure voiced before handing a Viander egg to the captain. That's. The captain was speechless as the egg landed on his gooey frame that was still in a splat formation the ground. It is my token of appreciation. The dark figure voiced before dissipating into a fog of darkness that disappeared into the distance. Just what was that? And why did he want information on the Earth's captain? It doesn't matter so long as it doesn't affect us. We have gotten a Viander egg out of it. Now let's focus on getting back into that dimension. The Diaperonian captain voiced with a dismissive tone. Who are we sacrificing next? Upon the utterance of this question, the entire place turned silent. Since no one is volunteering, I shall pick. The captain voiced as his gooey existence rose, turning into an humid figure. You. Gotta hand it to you, Gus, you always manage to find the craziest locations. He shook his head while staring down from a massive floating diamond-like platform. It is still as I remember. The portal brought us directly to a location with eggs. Gustav voiced while looking around. How did you even create that portal that could bring us here? I thought you said dimensional travel in and out of this place was impossible? Falco questioned with a look of suspicion. First, I didn't create that portal. Second, it truly is impossible to get in here with dimensional travel, but those guys found a way, an unorthodox one. Gustav stated as his mind went back to the Diaperonians. What guys? Matilda asked. The Diaperonians, Gustav responded. Everyone's face showed an expression that depicted they were waiting for Gustav to continue but didn't know who the Diaperonians were. The Diaperonians are mid-level strength when it comes to ranking the planets under the Alliance. They are not a very powerful planet, but still, they are not to be underestimated, Falco mentioned. Did you have an encounter with them? Ildris questioned. They are responsible for the portal that brought you guys here. Gustav paused for a bit before resuming. They sacrificed one of their teammates to create a portal that would lead here, he revealed. By sacrifice you mean, they? Wong voiced with a look of disbelief. Yes, they killed one of their own, and this wasn't the first time. It would seem that is the requirement along with some other unknown sacrilege to create a portal. They are already down to 17 members because they've already done this thrice, Gustav explained to the group, who still had shocked expressions. So we hijacked their portal after they sacrificed another member? Sheila had a disturbed expression as well. I sent them away and brought you guys there before the portal could close off. They would have been here instead of you guys, Gustav responded. Is that why we have this mark on our left hands? Glade questioned while pointing at the white glowing circular formation plastered on her green skin. It is the same mark I found on the spot they had sacrificed their last teammates, so yes, it is most definitely linked to the portal, Gustav responded. This is not okay, Falco voiced with a troubled tone. They're the ones who decided to kill their teammate, not us. Timmy shrugged. They were willing to take such extreme measures to get in here and gather Viander eggs. They must be aiming to win the Viander egg challenge, Fildhor voiced. That's nuts, man. He shook his head. Their whole civilization must be full of lunatics. I don't think they will stop there. They are most likely ready to sacrifice another teammate to get in, Ildris stated. Which also begs the question of why they kept leaving if this wasn't the first time they sacrificed a teammate. Endrik chipped in with a tone of curiosity. There's only one answer to that. A time limit, Gustav stated with a tone of certainty. I believe the mark on my hand just got a little fainter, Elevra said with knitted eyebrows. There you have it. Everyone will most likely get pulled out of this dimension the instant the mark disappears from our skin. Gustav. Then what are we waiting for? Let's gather as many eggs as we can before we leave here, Ria yelled. Gustav had formulated plans in his mind the instant he got the group in, so he wasn't bothered about gathering eggs without drawing attention to himself. Even if he drew attention to them, he was also less concerned since the whole group was here as well. Especially with ES presence here, getting Viander eggs would be way more easy. One of the many things that bothered the group about the Diaperonians was how they had become aware of the existence of this dimension in the first place, as well as how they knew what to do to get in. Gustav could only chalk it up to prior awareness. Someone had informed the Diaperonians beforehand, or they had somehow gotten wind of the information long before Viander Challenge began. How this was possible, no one knew. The Diaperonians had now climbed up Gustav's danger list. They were definitely a race that needed to be watched out for. 67,235 feet, Gustav voiced with God eyes activated. Yes, eyes glowed as he poked his index finger in the air and began outlining a circle. No, you're a couple of feet away, they might spot you, Gustav cautioned. He paused for a bit before performing the same action as before. After he formed the circle in mid-air, a small 3 feet wide vortex had opened up. He proceeded to put his palm in and grabbed something before pulling it out. Zrum, the vortex vanished after he pulled out a Viander egg which he passed to Gustav. Good job, Gustav voiced before keeping it within his storage space. That makes 19, he voiced. Yeah, let's get 3 more and give it a rest before time runs out, Gustav stated. 3 more? We still have at least 2 hours before we run out of time, Yonda said while pointing at his wrists. Why are we not getting every single Viander egg before leaving here? Fildhor chimed in. Because it strips the creatures here of their abilities and renders the dimension unstable. I may not care about people, but I won't be responsible for the destruction of all the species here, Gustav stated. I don't think the Diaperonians will share your sentiment, Falco voiced. What makes you think they will care about the existence of the creatures down here? After all, they're willing to sacrifice their own kin. Yonda voiced out as well. Then we just have to stop them. We are bound to encounter them eventually, Ildris suggested. I think it's better to take it all than let it fall into their hands, Yonda stated. Some of the teammates agreed with Yonda while others didn't wish to see the dimension destroyed due to their acts, and it caused an argument to brew. Stop! Gustav suddenly voiced out. They're close, he added before turning to stare in a particular direction. They? The Diaperonians? Timmy questioned. Yes, down there. Gustav pointed northeast. They just acquired another Viander egg, he added before asking E to open a vortex. Whatever you do, don't stare at them, Gustav warned as he jumped into the vortex. The others followed after him as well, and the group soon found themselves on a plain dark ground with multiple rock formations ahead. That's enough. Do not take any more eggs from here, Gustav stated the instant they arrived behind the group of walking gooey humanoid figures. Earth Captain Gustav Crimson, you have earned my ire. One of the Diaperonians spoke up as soon as they spotted Gustav. Okay. Seems like a you problem. Anyways, like I said, you've gotten enough eggs. Leave, Gustav demanded. Not until all the Viander eggs in this dimension is within my possession, the Diaperonian captain voiced out. The dimension would collapse in on itself if that happened, Gustav warned. We don't care about lower life forms. We must come first in the challenge, the captain responded. You see, Yonda voiced with an I told you so look. This is the last you take, Gustav stated while stepping forward. I refuse, the Diaperonian captain voiced before dropping to the ground splat and swiveling forward. At this same instant the other Diaperonians dematerialized completely as well, leaping into the air in complete thick liquid form. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. 62C5B2942708FD129AD975E. Follow current novels on top novelful.com. Chapter 12:10 Warning the Council. Gravitational manipulation has been activated. A gravitational force blasted forth from Gustav's frame, causing the Diaperonians to pause in mid-air. Their liquid form began coming apart, turning into multiple ashy drops that separated in mid-air. However, the captain who was swiveling across the ground had managed to reach Wang's foot. Yeah! Who? Hong screamed as he ran around swinging his limbs to get rid of the captain, but the Diaperonian had firmly stuck to him and spread around his entire body in a moment. I told you guys to be careful, Gustav voiced with a slight tone of frustration. Yi Wang left a green blur across the place in the next instant. Bang! 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 Ugh! Grr! Matilda, Fildhor and Abestos were knocked backwards with intensity as Wang threw a series of punches at them while moving at incredible speed. He is being controlled, stop him, Gustav said to the others, who quickly activated their bloodlines and tried to catch him. Wang happened to be too fast for them, and they were holding back so as to avoid seriously injuring him, so it was proving difficult to catch him. Endrick ascended into the air and clasped his hands together, in a bid to catch Wang with his telekinesis, but surprisingly Wang managed to barely escape it and leapt into the air. It seemed like he was going for Endrick when the Diaperonian captain suddenly phased out of Wang's body in mid-air, dropping towards Gustav's head. Gustav's eyes squinted in disappointment as he turned around and stared upwards. Spatial construct bloodline activated. Zhi, the Diaperonian captain descent was no match for his speed as Gustav raised his glowing index finger and drew square-shaped lines in mid-air. Fyi, the gooey substance closing in on Gustav's face, fell into a square-shaped glowing opened in the next instant. Pa! Gustav snapped his finger, and the opening disappeared instantly, trapping the Diaperonian captain within. The white glowing lines Gustav had drawn initially formed a passageway to a spatial world he had created which suppressed the strength of supernatural beings. So what are we going to do now? Babysit them? Yonda asked with an irritated tone. Gustav turned back around to face the Diaperonians who were floating in droplets all over the place. He didn't respond to Yanda. Instead, he created another spatial prison and trapped the rest of the 15 Diaperonian participants within. Is that even allowed? Fildhor asked. There were no rules against such, so I see no issues, Rhea voiced in response. Like I said before, we shall gather more eggs in the meantime, Gustav stated while moving ahead. We might not even need to take any more since the Diaperonians are subdued, but I guess Gus wants to be on the safe side, he voiced as he opened a vortex. In the spectators' area, they watched footage of battles ongoing in multiple areas of the fourth disk. It was happening just as Gustav predicted. Since only a few days were left before the Viander Egg Challenge would come to an end, the planets who had acquired lesser or no egg at all went after the planets that had eggs in their possession. Due to this, battles had broken out unlike the first 2 weeks. It was like a war was currently ongoing. The kids have disappeared, and this time with Gustav, Grand Commander Cheyenne voiced. You should be glad. That means they're okay and far from the whole ruckus, Miss Amy responded from the side. It makes me even more worried that we can't see them on any of the screens. Grand Commander Cheyenne forehead creased. It real. Amy of Earth, the Council will see you now. A voice was heard from behind as a small circular board-like platform floated in mid-air towards the Earth spectators area. Of Earth? I guess, for now. Miss Amy wanted to refute but then realized that she was planning to speak with them as a representative of sorts. She stood to her feet and floated onto the board with Grand Commander Cheyenne following beside her. The board-like platform floated higher into the air and soon disappeared into the western distance. Over an hour had gone by already, and the Earth participants had managed to gather around 4 more Viander eggs. They were currently within the Zerg's territory. Be careful when they get back here. I have set up protective measures, but it might not be enough, Gustav said to the Zerg chief. Due to my slave, I have insight as to the mechanisms of their abilities. I shall be careful, Savior, the Zerg chief responded. I thought we were here to take their egg, Yanda stated with a grumpy tone. Gustav ignored the complaints of Yanda and the other teammates who shared the same thoughts. He stared at the back of his hand where the whitish mark was located. I will be able to come back here after this, but the same can't be said for them, Gustav thought internally. In the next few seconds, the glow on the white mark emitted completely diminished, and everyone began to feel an internal pull. A glow emitted from Earth participants, forming a kind of spiral that decreased in size till everyone vanished from view. The chief of the Zerg stood in place for some time before reaching to grab the club-like weapon strapped to his back. He held the weapon up before speaking. Prepare for war! The upside-down horn on his scalp glowed immensely immediately after he gave the command. All sort of creatures began materializing around him, including the female Diaperonian he had acquired recently. The Zergs also began to move helter-skelter across the place as preparations for battle started. They'll take the Savior advice and inform the others as well. I swear we better win this thing or he'll be damn pissed, Yanda voiced the instant everyone returned to the green water body area. Our waiting depends on if no one above the surface here manages to acquire more eggs, Gustav voiced in response. The Diaperonians can sacrifice more of their participants and keep going back there. How are we even supposed to find them? Yanda questioned once more. Gustav had explained to everyone that the moment the Diaperonians ran out of time like they did, they would get pulled out of the dimension between the 4th and 5th disk, returning to the surface as well. This also meant that the spatial prison he kept them in would be unable to hold them, so they would inevitably be free. Since they could just sacrifice another teammate, this meant they could get into the dimension again. Gustav could try heading back to where the chief of the Zerg showed him the corpses were found, but he knew things would be different this time. He had sent the Diaperonians very far from where he found them doing the ritual for the portal. Since they would have to sacrifice a teammate in another location, it technically meant the corpse would be sent to a different location this time as well. There was no point in wasting any time waiting in that cave. The Diaperonians won't be able to acquire any more Viander eggs from down there, Gustav voiced before turning around. What do you mean by that? Fildhor questioned. Let's focus on up here. Things will be fine down there. Gustav began stepping forward out of water body area with an icy ceiling covering. The others slowly followed after him, not questioning like Yonda did. They had enough trust in Gustav so they could tell that he must have put some kind of precautions in place. The group soon arrived on a terrain of plain icelands that covered as far as the normal eyes could see with a couple of frosted trees in different areas. Now we form a hideout, Gustav stated while his skin turned green. Are you saying this threat encompasses the entire universe, or is it just an Earth issue? Within an unknown space with spherical shapes glowing tiles all around, a group of 7 sat on extended seats with different heights. They seemed to be in a conversation with the enchanting but cold-looking lady sporting ash-colored hair and clad in white flowing linen. A threat that large isn't going to affect Earth alone, Miss Amy responded. From what you have told us, only Earth seemed to be affected as well as the planet that you and offspring of Earth created. I see no reason why the entire alliance should be alarmed. One of the group of 7 with a teal glowing rhombus-shaped head stated. I can't tell if you have ears based on the way your head is shaped or you are just being stupid, so listen to the words coming out of my mouth again. Miss Amy threw away any formalities at this point. Dash. How dare you? Dash. Does this earthling have no manners? Miss Amy ignored their voices of displeasure and resumed speaking. 62C5B29427008FD12E9 add 975E follow current novels on top novelful. Com. Chapter 1211 How dare you? Dash. Does this earthling have no manners? I should smite you where you stand if it wasn't for Earth being amongst the leaders of the Alliance. The teal glowing rhombus head-shaped member voiced with a tone of dissatisfaction. Miss Amy ignored their voices of displeasure and resumed speaking. The entire universe will be affected. This threat has only appeared in the Milky Way for now, but 4 more anomalies are coming that will appear in other different parts of the universe. After the 5th anomaly, things will be at a very dangerous level, and trying to prepare countermeasures against the incoming threat at that time would be too late. Grand Commander Cheyenne, who stood beside her, had rays of light extending from the diamond-like stone embedded in his forehead, which displayed holographic footage of the incredibly massive and mythical eye that appeared in the Milky Way. Its appearance in the footage casted a ray of subtle gloom and disturbance across the entire vicinity, causing the 7 to wonder in silence for a little while. Grand Commander Cheyenne inwardly sighed in relief since the rhombus-shaped headed council member didn't try to get physical with Miss Amy. He knew better than anyone how that would end, especially since her real body was present on Ozius currently. How does this prove that it is a universal and not an Earth problem? Are we just going to take your word for it? A member with uncountable tapeworm-like face finally broke the silence. Yes, you should. I have no reason to save this rotten universe if it wasn't for him. If he is gone, rest assured I can let the entire universe get buried with him. Miss Amy replied with an inhospitable tone. Who is him? The council members voiced with tones of confusion. Ahem, council lords, what she is trying to say is, this isn't something Earth can handle on its own. Grand Commander Cheyenne quickly butted in. Even if this is just an Earth issue, we are one of the leading bodies of the Alliance, so it is well within your graciousness to assist. We ask that after ISOP is concluded there be an Alliance meeting involving all the leaders as well as leading members to discuss this. Grand Commander Cheyenne followed up with this. Currently, the Alliance of Planets had a leading body of 20 planets, Earth included. The leading bodies each had 1 representative who were referred to as Council Lords. These Council Lords practically led a body of over 3,000 planets who were all under the Alliance. The thousands of planets underneath them also had representatives as well, but only the leading representatives from the leading planets in the Alliance were referred to as Council Lords. Currently, only around 7 Council Lords were available in this meeting, while the others were currently indisposed, including that of Earth's. An Alliance meeting where every single representative under the Alliance would gather had not been held in over 500 years. Usually, it could only be issued by the Council Lords when there was a very important matter that concerned the fate of the entire universe, or just the planets connected to the Alliance. Despite Earth being one of the 20 leaders of the Alliance, They couldn't just issue a meeting without the agreement of 9 other council lords. It would be considered a matter of utmost significance if the council lords were to agree to an alliance meeting. "We shall think about it and come to a conclusion before the end of ISOP," the council lord who looked similar to a handler voiced. "We shall await your favorable response," Grand Commander Cheyenne said with a respectful tone before gesturing at Miss Amy for them to leave. Miss Amy threw a glare at them for an instant, causing the council lords to feel chills run down their spines. "Let's go, Amy," he voiced with a pleading tone. Miss Amy turned around at this point and walked out with him. After they left, some of the council lords heaved sighs of relief as the pressure within the vicinity vanished. "What do we do about this?" one of them questioned. We have to inform the other council lords first, except for Council Lord Jean since he sent them." The fourth disk went on to be chaotic for the next couple of days while the Earth candidates found a place to hide out, while everywhere else was in turmoil. Gustav decided to check the notification he had ignored these past few days. Quest completed. Successfully bring the rest of Earth's candidate into the dimension in between the 4th and 5th disk. Rewards, +10, 000, 000 EXP. Gustav proceeded to check his attributes to confirm the addition of the EXP. Host attributes, name, Gustav Crimson level, 132 class, metamorphic parallel being EXP, 12005. 000/97, 300, 000 HP. 250, 000/250, 000 energy, 420, 000/420, 000 attributes, strength, 557 perception, 549 mental fortitude, 552 agility, 550 speed, 555 bravery, 554 intelligence, 557 charm, 172 defense, 551 Rho Alpha D Alpha N Nu vitality, 554 Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Theta M, attributes points, 123. Underscore 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 underscore. How many more levels till max? Gustav asked internally as he stared at the stats before him. Now why would I tell you that? The system responded with a rhetorical question. Just as expected. You never tell me anything, Gustav scoffed internally. I still have that one piece of information I'll reveal after ISOP. The system voiced. Sure. At this point Gustav didn't expect anything from the system besides its usual annoying daily tasks and occasional quests. On the bright side, he got stronger every day even if he decided not to channel his bloodline due to the attribute points he gets from the system after the completion of daily tasks. Alien ability upgrade. Which ability does host wish to upgrade? Gustav internally made a decision and in the next instant another notification popped up. Upgrading techified Vi dimension. Gustav's face turned completely dark and whirly, causing the others around to stare at him in confusion. 0/100%. Fortunately, they weren't sucked into the 6th dimension due to the fact that it was currently in the process of upgrade. 10/100%, 30/100%, 60/100%, 99/100%, 100%, upgrade complete. Gustav's face returned to normal upon the completion of the upgrade and he was about to dismiss the system pop-ups in his face when a new notification appeared. New techified ability unlocked. Oh! The upgrade triggered a new ability from that alien, Gustav said internally as he checked the system stats in relation of alien life form abilities. Alien life form abilities. He spotted the new ability and multiple speculations began to play out in his mind. 6th dimension reanimation. Double the range of where the darkness appears. Maybe if I activated it now the darkness appears on my back and anyone who stares at it gets sucked in. Amongst Gustav's many speculations, this was one of the sensible ones, but at the same time he wasn't convinced since this would be more of an upgrade than a new ability. It could be that the creatures within I can. Before Gustav could complete this thought an air-shredding sound rang out. Thrrrh blum! Along with it came collision and explosion that caused a part of the aero silk surrounding them to crumble instantly as the environment trembled immensely from the impact. The entire group was instantly alarmed as they all jumped to their feet. "You didn't sense that?" the system questioned. "I did, but it was too late and sudden," Gustav replied as he stood to his feet and slowly stepped through the gap created from the explosion. Fog had covered the vicinity due to the blast, but as it reduced, a group of 20 extending powerful pressure across the environment could be spotted stepping forward. They all emitted a look of confidence and ridiculous air of strength that caused the approaching opposition to pause for an instant subconsciously. "We finally found you, Earthlings!" one of them yelled with a tone of desperation. Up ahead, the group could see 12 participants clad in massive red quill-like outfits with an upside-down cone-shaped head. On the left was another 17 participants with gem-like humanoid bodies, possessing just a single eye in the middle of their stone-like head. On the right was yet another group of 13 phantom-like creatures with a spear-like object in the middle of their heads. Behind these 3 different groups at the forefront were 2 more approaching groups. They all looked like they had come for war, emitting intense malicious auras. "What do you guys want?" Gustav questioned as he stood in front of his teammates. "Nothing much, just hand over the Viander eggs in your possession and we shall be on our way," one of the participants in the red quill-like outfits stated. Chapter 12:12. "Nothing much, just hand over the Viander eggs in your possession and we shall be on our way," one of the participants in the red quill-like outfits stated. "We've worked to gather these eggs. They have been acquired as a result of hard work. I'll advise you lots to leave now while you still can and work to gather eggs for yourselves as well." Eldris voiced calmly but inputted a subtle threat. "This is us working to gather eggs. Hand it over, Earthlings," one of the gem-like humanoid figures stated. "You will have more success gathering the eggs in my black sack, you oddly shaped motherfuck *RS. He yelled out while raising a middle finger. "I don't know what that means. We're not giving you the eggs. Leave now and save yourselves the trouble of needing medical care," Gustav stated. At this point, the oppositions were clear on the fact that peaceful negotiations or threats wouldn't work. "Get them! Hiya!" The oppositions charged forward with some immediately channeling attacks in the next instant. Only a little over a day was left till the Viander Egg Challenge would come to an end. Gustav wanted to make sure they had gathered enough to stay in the first spot, so he decided to max the group engage in the incoming battle instead of asking E to open a vortex to honor her location. Bang! 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 The sound of powerful collisions soon rang out as the group of Earthlings faced the other groups simultaneously. Gustav immediately went for one of the strongest amongst the opposition up ahead. The red quill-like outfits, the group in the middle were clad in, had turned into 6 pair of wings with bottle-shaped white bodies in between. With a swing of one of their wings, red sharp energy would cut across the air, splitting the ground open ahead. Whoosh! Hover has been activated. Gustav swerved sideways across the air, escaping the wing slashes as he arrived before the first Threndethran. The captain of the Threndethran spun repeatedly across the air, sending out multiple of the massive quills on Biss' body like giant blades. Clang! 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 Gustav waved his hands across the air multiple times, slapping the quills that shot in his direction before they could make contact with him. All that could be seen from one angle was afterimages of his hands moving way faster than the normal eye could see. Kairar! Erf! Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Phi. Gustav sped forward at incredible speed and caught the head of the captain of the Threndethrans before swooping downwards. Thiast! The captain hissed as he found himself unable to fight against Gustav's strength upon their descent. Boom! Gustav slammed him into the ground heavily, causing the ground to cave in as shockwaves blasted across the vicinity. Bang! 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 Multiple more Threndethrans were sent flying by the blast of the residual energy. Gustav wasted no time in charging forward once more, picking a new opposition to deal with. On the other side, Eldris opened his eyes, causing the world around him to lose color. His calm demeanor as he made powerful strides across the vicinity struck a fear of the unknown within the hearts of the oppositions before him. The gem-like humanoid figures emitted bright light from their beings, but due to Eldris absorbing color from the surroundings, everything seemed to be black and white. Through him firing black and white beams from their stone-like face, Eldris tanked the attacks with his palm, causing him to occasionally slide backwards as mist erupted from his hands. How is the Earthling doing this? The Jeekskur were surprised that their attacks were barely having any effect on him. It was like they had been completely weakened. You can have them back in high definition, Eldris said as he slightly raised his palm, which was emitting a green glow. He turned his palm towards them, and out came the beams they had fired at him, but this time with color. Roalpha dialpha en nu amwaya boom. Arf! The participants yelled in terror, as the green pillar of light slammed into them with the effectiveness increased. The icy mountain behind them instantly spilt open and a lot of them lost body parts from the attack. Eldris pressed forward unrelenting, as there were still quite the number of them. E and Endrick, who were positioned on the right, dealt with the phantom-like participants together. Endrick had used his telekinesis to cause the ground covering a particular radius to float in mid-air. Their battle was taking place in the sky as multiple projectiles shot at Endrick while he made use of his vortexes to send the projectiles to the rest of the oppositions on the battlefield. Elevra and Sheila had gone ahead of the rest to take care of the other groups arriving. Unfortunately, Elevra couldn't do anything but watch as Sheila took them down at a very quick pace. The air cracked like glass as Sheila unleashed her power, causing the approaching opponents to question their vision and sense of perception. With a swing of her hand, multiple participants would have their limbs turning to wood and their sensory organs shifting places across their bodies. Elevra was in awe, but this was to be expected since besides Gustav, Sheila seemed to be the strongest, especially since her bloodline rank was the highest as well. From the surface it seemed like Elevra and Eldris were third in terms of strength, but Endrick happened to surpass them. The group just wasn't aware yet. Wong took care of some of the participants that had sustained heavy injury or passed out. Gustav had instructed him to take them somewhere else due to his plans. Yonda lunged forward, stabbing his finger into the air as a new group of participants arrived. Thryohing! A pillar of energy blasted into the sky, knocking some milky glowing 1 feet tall creatures to the ground. The planet groups that had come to attack the Earth participants were around 10 in number, making it over 100 individual opponents. Gustav's perception had spread across the entire vicinity, so he could tell that they were all arriving from a particular direction, which he found strange. There were still more incoming as they dealt with the ones here. These planets were not weak, but compared to Earth's standing, they were considerably less powerful, so Gustav and the others had no difficulty battling multiple of them at the same time. "We're leaving," Gustav instructed. "Wait, why?" Fildhor, who was having much fun dealing with the opponents, questioned. You make a vortex now and send us 1,600 miles to the south," Gustav instructed. "Hiya!" More of the participants from different planets were still charging with intensity, but Gustav had made his decision. Truroini. He conjured up a portal and Wong proceeded to speed in and out multiple times while carrying unknown participants. The others headed in quickly while Endrick made use of telekinesis to string a couple of unconscious bodies along with him. "Don't let them get away!" A participant behind conjured a massive white chaotic ball which shot forward with speed. However, before it could meet its target, the vortex closed up and vanished completely. The ground instantly caved in upon the impact of the projectile, leaving yet another hole in the area. This place that had turned into a battlefield was completely wrecked. Even after Gustav and the others had left, there were still more participants from other planets arriving here to partake in the assault. "Why did we leave? We were winning," Yonda complained the instant they arrived before the entry point of a frosted cave. "We can't fight them all," Gustav replied. "What do you mean?" "We were kicking their ass up there," Yonda stated with a grumpy look. "And how many more do you think you can fight before you wear out? Before stronger groups arrive? Do you think you can fight an entirety of 2,000 planetary group each with 20 participants?" Gustav threw out consecutive questions at Yonda, causing him to keep quiet. Why would we have to fight that many, though? They can't all find us. Fildhor questioned. They actually can. It is not a coincidence that this many know of our location. I believe Gustav figured out that there's something fishy going on. Falco responded. Since they knew of our location initially, we can be assured that they will figure this one out as well. However, before they do, we could find out how they came to know of our location in the first place. Gustav voiced while turning to stare at the 12 different species laying on the ground unconscious by the side. Some of them were missing limbs and oozing different blood colors, but Gustav was unbothered. Mental manipulation has been activated. Wake up! Chapter 12-13. The difficult part is finding them. Mental manipulation has been activated. Wake up! Diane! Gustav's voice rang in their minds heavily and repeatedly. It was like a hammer continuously colliding with a nail, with the sound amplified by over 1,000 times. Eh! The bunch began screaming as some of them held on their heads in agony while wriggling uncontrollably. You lots are going to tell me how you found us? Gustav voiced with an intimidating tone. How could they have something like that? Is that even allowed? Wang questioned with a look of surprise. Well, it isn't against the rules. It's just like how I have SJ here. Gustav replied as the sacred jewel appeared beside him. The bunch they had abducted confessed that a species known as the Ivdar possessed an item that displayed the location of people they had bumped into irregardless of place and time. This was how they had located Earth candidates over and over again. What the Ivdar group did was gather as many participants as they could find and convince them to join in the ambushing Earth. Now we can be sure that they will definitely find us again, Matilda said with a disturbed tone. How do they expect to gain from this? They haven't even attacked us directly? Glade questioned. Their plan is most likely to weaken us using the forces of other participants, and then swoop in when we're out of energy. That way there will barely be any resistance from us, and they get what they want. Falco analyzed. We just have to destroy the item and then we'll be fine for the next 24 hours. The likelihood of encountering any opposing participants after we destroy it will be very low, Timmy said with a look of contemplation. Destroying it is the easy part. The difficult part is finding them, Falco stated. Not so difficult if we can get them to tell us, Timmy said while pointing at the participants who were bound on the ground. No one really knows their way around the fourth disc. It is way too large. They wouldn't be able to give us directions since they are also unaware of how to get back there, Gustav replied while slightly shaking his head. What do we do? How do we find them? Matilda voiced with a concerning tone. I have a plan, but we'll need to let them get to us again, Gustav stated. Shouldn't be long then, Eildris voiced while turning to stare in a particular direction. Don't expend much of your energy during the coming battle, Gustav warned. That reminds me, how are they even able to gather so much forces from all across the fourth disc? Timmy questioned. Since everyone was aware of how large the fourth disc was, it didn't make sense that so many of them just happened to coincidentally find the Ivdar group who were offering the location of the planet group with the highest number of Viander eggs. I searched one of their memories and found out that the item also randomly sends out holographic messages all across the fourth disc, giving other participants the directions on where to meet the Ivdar group. They meet the Ivdar group, agree to their ambush plan, and when a participant makes contact with the item, a kind of location pull appears in their minds that point them in the exact direction to head in so they can find us. Gustav explained lengthily. That is not good, he muttered. This meant other stronger groups, closer in proximity, could definitely get the holographic messages soon and also decide to join in the ambush. That is why we have to destroy it as soon as possible, Glade voiced. They're here, Gustav suddenly announced while leaping into the air. From a massive tank-shaped platform that happened to be descending from the sky had casted a looming shadow over them in an instant. However, Gustav's figure had already ascended to meet it. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as waves of energy blasted across the sky. Heavy winds spread in every direction, causing the ground below to quake as the Earth participants found their hair swimming in the wind despite standing in place. Bam! Gustav landed back on his feet in the next moment. Go and stick together till I say it's time to leave, he announced before, speeding off in a particular direction. The group wasted no time in chasing after him, while channeling their bloodline energies as well. This time the approaching numbers were nearly twice compared to before. Despite the figures, the Earth participants unwavering charged in, and another battle soon began. Bang! Bang! Boom! Gustav swept through a group of 7 at very quick pace, punching a hole through the attack of another species. You will do, Gustav thought as he evaded the swing of the opponent blade that left afterimages. Fulham Gustav ascended with incredible speed in the next instant. God Eyes has been activated. The moment he activated God Eyes and stared downwards, he passed an instruction. Ye open up a vortex, we're leaving. The battle was starting to get intense at this point, so everyone was busy dealing with a couple of enemies at the same time. Since Gustav knew it would be difficult for them to just stop with whatever opponents they were facing currently, he swooped down. Go now! Gustav yelled as he descended with immense speed. Energy discharge has been activated. His entire figure lit up with a red glow as he heavily landed in the midst of the oppositions. Boom! A red wave of energy detonated across the vicinity from his figure, sending forth intense destruction that spread across a range of 30,000 feet. Screams were heard all over the place as the oppositions had been taken by surprise. The ground caved in across multiple areas, causing a lot of them to fall, and while others get blasted backwards by the powerful force. A couple of them sustained gracious injuries instantly, but a few still managed to tank the attack, receiving a little damage. Nevertheless, this had given the others time to leave, as they already disappeared through the vortex he had created. Foolish Gustav turned around and sped away very quickly, vanishing through the vortex he had left open. The vortex closed up in the next moment, and Gustav stared at the others, who were looking at him like he had just done something crazy. Up front, a long divide had been left on the icy ground, which happened to be from the residual energy of Gustav's blast. It had followed them in through vortex. Man, you could have charged someone with that and they'd end up becoming difficult to locate during nighttime like me. He gestured at his black face. It's a good thing no one stood in front of the vortex after coming in. Ildris chuckled and everyone began choking with laughter after a little while. Give us a warning next time, man, he said while tapping Gustav's shoulder. I kinda did, but anyways, I will be able to locate the item in a few. I just need one of them to head back to where the Ivhar are, Gustav said while his eyes emitted a scarlet and green glow. You mean the dudes you just turned to tar? He asked with a look of concern. I weakened the effect close to me, so they'll be fine, Gustav replied. Just as he said, the participants closer to him were barely affected. The energy discharge most just grew more powerful the further it spread. What do we do now? Fildhor questioned. We wait, Gustav responded with a calm tone. Hiya! Slaughter them all! To hell with the vermins! In the dimension in between the 4th and 5th disc, a battle seemed to be ongoing as thousands of beasts chased after a group of ash-colored slimy individuals. It was more of a chase than a battle. The ash-colored gooey creatures seemed to be trying to escape due to the immense number of beasts chasing after them. How did it turn out like this, Captain? I thought you said we will be fine this time? One of the gooey creatures, who was currently slimming his way across a rough, rocky surface, voiced with a tone of frustration. I don't understand how these creatures are aware of us. We can't get any eggs because of this and the sudden alarm that goes off when we get close to the eggs. Captain's voice sounded more frustrated as they scurried away. The Diaperonians happened to be the ones getting chased currently. It turned out that the advice Gustav had given the chief of the Zergs was to use the Diaperonians as scapegoats for the Viander eggs that had been taken from here so far. The chief of the Zergs had gathered creatures together from all over, telling them about the beings that had been stealing their eggs. 62C5B29427008FD12E9 add 975E follow current novels on top novelful.com. Chapter 12-14 The chief of the Zergs had gathered creatures together from all over, telling them about the beings that had been stealing their eggs. The ones who already had their territories plundered were even more enraged and wasted no time in joining the chief of the Zerg's course to eradicate the culprits the instant he proposed it. The others didn't want their eggs to be stolen, so they joined the course as well, and now there were over 50,000 creatures gunning for the Diaperonians. They had also received the blame for the eggs Gustav and the others had taken. Despite this, Gustav did something that gave off a loud warning the moment the Diaperonians were in close proximity with the Viander eggs. They would have successfully acquired a couple if it wasn't for this alarm. Whenever it went off, thousands upon thousands of the beasts would be on the Diaperonians' tail again. Things had gone exactly according to Gustav's plan, so he didn't need to bother himself about this place anymore. He only needed to be worried about the surface now. Life signs tracking has been activated. Found them, Gustav voiced as he turned to stare southeast. The item? Ealdris questioned. I am staring at it right now, and it's staring back at me as well. Gustav's response caused everyone's faces to lit up with expressions of confoundment. What do you mean? Rhea asked. They know where we are, Gustav stated. At the moment, Gustav's sight displayed what looked like a large and smooth reflective surface. On this reflective surface, he could see himself like he was standing right in front of a mirror, while his teammates surrounded him. Gustav was no doubt staring at the item that equipped the Ivdhars with the ability to locate them, and he was looking through the body of one of the participants, whose life sign he had saved earlier. Does that mean they already found us? He questioned. I can see every one of us through the eye of the item, so yes, they have found us, but none have gotten to us yet, as that will still take some time, Gustav responded. But it's all good since I know their exact location right now. Gustav continued to stare southeast. Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Theta M. Hold on. He stood right beside Gustav with his eyes closed as he stretched out both his hands. In the next few moments, he opened his eyes, which were gleaming with a bright violet color, and made a swirling motion with both his hands. A large vortex opened up in front of them in the next instant. He and Gustav didn't need to utter a word before the others understood where it led. We're leaving the instant it is destroyed. There will be no need to engage in any long battles, Gustav instructed as he stepped through the vortex. His major reason for pointing this out was mostly due to the disgruntled in the group that felt like they could take on the entire world. What is that? Within an area where a high number of group gathered before what looked like a thin layer of triangular glass frame, a violet swirling massive appeared behind them. Is that a feature of the Heaven Gaze mirror? Some of them wondered out loud as they stared at it. The group, who had bluish hair like wrappers surrounding their body which extended from their scalp, had looks of confusion as they stared ahead. On the surface of the thin layer of glass was a footage that displayed a group of people walking through the exact violet swirling mass that had appeared here. No, that isn't. One of them was about stating when a purplish beam blasted forth from the vortex. Bang! It slammed heavily onto the thin layer of glass, which in turn got forcefully yanked into the air. Protect the Heaven Gaze mirror! One of them yelled as they quickly sent their hair like wrappers into the air to catch the mirror. Fuhum, the first figure that came speeding out of the violet-colored swirling mass, appeared right above the mirror in the next instant. Bang! The familiar figure feet was laced with milky glowing light as he swung one of them heavily, sending the mirror flying further away as a crack finally appeared on its surface. KRRRRYYCHHH. Stop him! Bro Alpha D Alpha and Nu some of them yelled loudly as they leapt into the air instantly. The others behind had also followed suit immediately, appearing as soon as the oppositions leapt into the air. The inevitable clash occurred as the rest of the Earth participants faced the groups currently gathered around. Gustav followed the mirror with more than 20 different participants on his tail, throwing multiple powerful attacks at him. However, Gustav still outmatched them in speed, especially since he had taken them by surprise. With his right fist coated in milky glow, he swung it forward powerfully as he arrived before the mirror once more. A piece of hair-like fabric extended from below at the same instant, faintly wrapping around the mirror while his fist made contact. Boom! The mirror was only wrapped halfway before the fist hit, but even at that, the mirror only developed a few more cracks as the hair-like fabric disintegrated upon the fist collision, while mirror repeatedly spiraled across the air from the impact. Atomic blade has been activated. That thing is way more sturdy than it looks, Gustav internally grumbled as a 6-feet-long atomic blade appeared in his grasp. The mirror had a very thin layer which was like that of a thread if not even thinner. Yet the multiple attacks they had landed on it had failed to destroy it. It had only gotten a little damaged but was still far from being completely destroyed. Gustav didn't put it into consideration that something like this would be so sturdy, or he would have used more force from the start. Throughout, Gustav increased his flight speed as wings sprouted out of his back. He stretched his arms sideways as he sped forward, ready to deliver a powerful strike on the mirror with the atomic blade. Down below, one of the creatures who had a greenish hair like fabric wrapped around their body lunged forward. Through which the hair like fabric surrounding their figure extended forward and increased in length crazily before stabbing into the ground ahead. Gustav was close to making contact with the mirror when a greenish wall of hair shot out from the ground ahead, rising so high it blocked the path of the mirror spiraling in midair. The mirror rolled into it, and got wrapped up completely by the wall of hair that had shot into the sky from below. Gustav's eyes squinted as he swung the blades sideways mightily. Thrara! A massive milky-colored arc sliced forward with intensely, cleaving the entire wall of dense green hair into two halves. However, the mirror happened to be nowhere to be found as the rest of the hair descended into the ground. Multiple participants chasing from behind were catching up to Gustav at this point since he had suddenly paused due to the current situation. He spotted the Ibdar participant responsible for hijacking the mirror before he could destroy it, far below. The participant was speeding away with the mirror caught between his greenish hair like fabric. The participants that numbered in the 30s chasing after him would get to him before he could even manage to give chase, so the situation looked impossible. Unfortunately, that's not happening on my watch, Gustav stated as he descended with speed. SJ, Gustav muttered as he landed atop an icy mountain. Zien, bring it to me, he instructed the moment SJ appeared before him. Hio! Get him! The participants chasing after him were right above at the moment, and had caught up to him, while the Ibdar participant was getting away with the mirror. All of a sudden the sacred jewel emitted a profound glow that caused everything in the environment to undergo an instant change of displacement. Zien and the Ibdar participant who was escaping in the opposite direction suddenly felt the landscape around him change and found himself standing before Gustav. Thank you. A smile appeared on Gustav's face as he yanked the mirror out of the participant hair like fabric that was holding it up. Don! Before the participant could utter another word, Gustav's palms slammed into his body, sending him hurling across the air. Bang! As for the participants that had caught up to Gustav, they found themselves attacking the ground in another location. This occurrence completely shocked them as they realized they were thousands of feet away from Gustav's position. Chapter 12:15 A Day of Pieces. This occurrence completely shocked them as they realized they were thousands of feet away from Gustav's position. Bang! 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 Shatter! Gustav stated as he held onto 17 feet wide triangular glass which was thinner than a thread. Swinging one of his fists forward once more with intensity, Gustav drilled a hole through the glass, causing a powerful shockwave to rock the vicinity. Boom! KRRRYCCHHHHHH. Finally, more cracks spread across the glass from the point where his fist had gone through. As Gustav pulled his arm out, he could see that his entire fist was covered in blood despite the milky glow that initially coated it. As there was no time to waste since the groups here were very high in number, Gustav shattered the mirror even more, snapping it into multiple pieces. After all of this was done, he told E to open a vortex that would get them out of there quickly. He lifted into the sky quickly, dodging multiple projectiles from the attacks of the groups around him who remained unrelenting in getting him. You may have destroyed the mirror, but you delivered yourself directly into our grasp without much stress. We shall not let you leave without taking the Viander eggs off your hands. Two voices could be heard from the multiple participants chasing after Gustav. At that same instant, they launched a joint attack, causing two massive palms to descend from the sky. The grayish hands were so massive that they blotted out the sky and caused the winds to howl crazily. "Everyone leave right away," Gustav said through the mind link, to the rest who were still fending off the opponents around instead of leaving through the vortex. Gustav was still thousands of feet away from the position of the vortex despite giving this instruction, and it looked like he was in a pinch as both palms descended. The descent of the palms brought forth an immense pressure that had carved out handprints across a radius spanning for thousands of feet, affecting even the vortex that was quite a distance away. "Get away quick! Flee!" Even the oppositions were trying to flee the area of concentration as they were also affected, but the pressure the palms emitted had bound some of them in place. Gustav's wings struggled against the strong winds trying to push him to the ground as they spread out wider before sweeping backwards with intensity. Swiwi-yai, Gustav's body propelled forward swiftly, scraping a little across the surface of the descending palms as he arrived before the vortex. Pui-hai! The instant he phased through the vortex, the massive palms collided with the ground, causing the surroundings to tremble greatly as a high number of participants got swept across the vicinity like sheets of paper. "Arf!" Cries rang out as the vortex disappeared a moment later. Fwaiwai winds spread across the environment in their location as some of the residual energy from the palms swept into the vortex before it closed up. Fortunately, everyone seemed to be okay and already went in before Gustav did. "Well, we should have some peace and quiet before the challenge ends now," Timmy voiced with a sigh of relief. "Don't jinx it," he said before sitting on the ground. "It should end in another 1 day, so if we stay out of their way it should be fine." Falco voiced before sitting beside E. "What happened to stealing their eggs if they tried to steal ours?" Yonda stated with a look of dissatisfaction. "I would have actually done that if you guys weren't here," Gustav responded. "Are you insinuating that we're weighing you down?" Yonda voiced with a triggered expression as he turned to face Gustav. "Yes, sometimes. I cannot go all out because I have to consider the rest of you getting hit by an attack from me," Gustav replied with a straight face. What? Oh my god, did you guys hear that? This guy really sees us as nuisances," Yonda said while looking around with an expression of dismay. "Because teamwork is important, I chose what is best for the group to make sure there are no drawbacks," Gustav voiced once more. "And he just keeps going. How are you guys okay with being called baggages?" "I am not baggage," Yonda said while sticking his finger out before Gustav. "He's more concerned with everyone remaining in one piece, so leave it be," Timmy voiced from the side. "There are attacks some of us cannot unleash when our comrades are in the vicinity in fear of harming them as well, so we tend to hold back. That's normal in a team, and Gustav just happens to have many of those sorts of attacks," Ildra stated as well. Gustav ignored Yonda tantrums as he already felt this was normal. When the group was around him, he would make the best decision that would keep everyone safe. If he was alone, he could throw caution out the window and acted as he pleased. This was one of the reasons Gustav wasn't a fan of groups and preferred solo action in the past. However, he had now come to understand how having a group was beneficial due to multiple situations. Whenever it was time to act alone he would, and when the time came to act solo, he would do the needful as well. The phrase "there is a time for everything" had borne meaning to him. Take us further from here," Gustav instructed. He wanted to make sure they would remain untraceable by the others who were trying to get them. After traveling through vortexes a couple of times, the group finally settled beside a body of what looked like a frozen waterfall. He created an aero silk barrier that shielded the entire group, and they proceeded to wait as that was the best course of action right now. My goodness, how are they able to do such? This is bad, they need to stay away from the Fix-It group. The eggs will be stolen before they can realize it, if they cross paths. We can only hope they don't cross paths. In Earth's spectating area, some of the spectators seemed to be worried about a particular group being displayed on one of the floating screens. It turned out that this alien group were capable of stealing eggs from other groups without having to engage them in a physical brawl. Other planets' spectating areas had worried expressions as well, since some of them had witnessed the same thing. Some of their candidates were already victims of the Fix-It group. The group were scouring the fourth disk to the best of their abilities so as to cross path with any group they could find and obtain their egg. The fourth disk was still riddled with battles at multiple locations due to others trying to acquire eggs from other groups before time ran out. Whenever the Fixit group came close to such places, they would acquire the eggs of everyone there if the groups battling were in possession of eggs. They didn't need to engage in the battle and would leave as quickly as they arrived. Earth's spectators were hoping that this group would not come into contact with Earth's participants before the challenge ended. While this had a very low chance of happening, they were still worried that this group would end up acquiring more than the current number of eggs Earth participants had gathered so far. Boom! 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 Explosions blasted all across the vicinity as a figure leapt from blade to blade, dodging their descent. Thwaiawai! Thyish thousands of massive 30-feet-long blades were slicing across the air at very quick pace, spreading a layer of mist as they sizzled intensely. Upon contact with his feet, the massive blades shooting forward at the figure would combust, sending more blasts across the vicinity. As flames spread, consuming the figure within, the creatures chasing from behind had looks of relief only for their faces to lit up in disbelief again. Why the figure has leapt out of the flames unscathed as a milky glow covered his entirety. Maybe I should have stayed in, Gustav muttered as the 2 Viander eggs in his grasp disappeared into his storage device. 6 hours ago. Around 7 hours should be left before the challenge ends, Gustav voiced within the covering of the Iros silk barrier. Yeah, we're really close. It will come to an end before we know it, Matilda voiced in response. I'm going out to steal eggs, Gustav stated while standing to his feet. What? Tini voiced with a tone of confusion. We're okay with this many. I don't see the need to acquire more, Falco voiced as well. I feel uneasy. You guys stay in here, it would be better if I go alone, Gustav voiced while stepping forward. Let's exchange before I leave, Gustav said while handing a bluish button to Ildris. Ildris paused for a bit before nodding and handing Gustav a similar-looking bluish button. 62C5B29427008FD12E9 add 975E follow current novels on top novelful. Com. Chapter 12:16 Ildris paused for a bit before nodding and handing Gustav a similar-looking bluish button. Alright, you guys stay here. I'm off. Thriria. A part of the Iros silk opened up and Gustav sped out before anyone could retort again. The Iros silk opening closed back immediately, leaving the others within. Well, it hasn't been fruitless so far, so it's all good, Gustav muttered as he escaped another cloud of explosion. The group behind remained unrelenting as they gave chase, but Gustav was in no mood to stick around. Lightning Blitz has been activated. He disappeared out of view after turning into a lightning bolt, leaving the group behind cursing their luck. Gustav had been on this for over 6 hours and he was aware that only around an hour was left before the challenge would come to an end. God Eyes has been activated. Gustav made use of life signs tracking to check on the others he had left behind, within the Iros silk barrier. After confirming that they were okay, he decided to head back. Just as he was about to leave, Gustav's perception picked up on a battle occurring at the far end of his perception. His perception, which covered thousands of miles, only picked this up very close to the edge, which meant he would have to travel over 1,000 miles to arrive there. He felt it wasn't worth it, and decided to leave anyways. However, at this moment, something unanticipated occurred. Gustav felt a strange pull, and the next thing he knew, the Viander eggs he had acquired appeared from his storage device and vanished. What the hell? Gustav voiced with a look of confusion as he tapped on his storage button multiple times. All the items within had been completely emptied. The eggs are gone. Gustav's eyes turned listless. Minutes earlier, the magnetic space bar is picking up on another nearby. Within a group of 13, a creature with white striped mechanical-looking body voiced out. Is that Gustav Crimson? One of them, whose eyes were white and completely mirror-like, said with a surprised tone. Dash. The captain of Earth? We've hit the jackpot. Dash. The magnetic space bar is scrambling with the frequency of his spatial pocket now. These mechanical-looking creatures seemed to have multiple holographic screens floating around them along with rays of light shooting out of their eyes. It looked like they were a race mixed with technological parts as well as that of living tissue. The black piece of liquid metal floating in their midst seemed to be the magnetic space bar that they were referring to. This were the Fixit group who had been stealing eggs since. So long as anyone was within a particular proximity from them, they could acquire the items in their spatial storage. Every single ISOP participant had a spatial storage place where they kept everything they possessed. The Fixit group being capable of this was practically a cheat, as no one would expect such. We should have his eggs in 3, 2, 1 now, one of them voiced with a tone of enthusiasm as a small glow coated the vicinity. Thyaning high 4 Viander eggs appeared around the group after a couple of moments, and their mechanical faces had hints of dissatisfaction. Just 4? Wasn't Earth having around 19 eggs a week ago? This doesn't make any sense. They should have acquired more in the last week. At least he still gave us more than the other groups we've hijacked. They voiced out their confusions as they took possession of the 4 eggs that appeared. We need to leave here soon to avoid contact with any group, their captain voiced. Present time. It's all gone, Gustav voiced with a tone of utter confusion. Obviously someone is responsible for this, the system voiced in his mind. Yeah, but then I don't sense anyone remotely close by except where the battle is ongoing and a little distance from there as well, which is expected since there are multiple groups involved, Gustav replied. There's your answer, the system voiced. That is too far away for there such an occurrence. There is no way anyone would manage to steal the contents of a spatial storage device from such a distance, not to mention also teleporting it as well, Gustav stated with a logical tone. Well, you don't sense anyone else around, so. God Eyes has been activated. Gustav leapt into the air as wings sprouted out of his back in the process. His vision turned completely reddish as he zoomed into the far ends of where his perception reached, crossing hundreds of miles. The Fixit group, Gustav screeched as he muttered. Over 6 hours of work, y'all think you can successfully render it useless? Gustav's eyes gleamed with intensity as he watched the eggs they had stolen phase into a floating black liquid metal. That thing might be responsible. Before the system could complete its statement, Gustav butted in. It is. I have analyzed its components and confirmed that the black item is indeed responsible for this, Gustav voiced while multiple glowing readings were displayed before him. Alpha D Alpha and But it is running out of power very quickly. It won't last for more than a couple more minutes. This made Gustav realize that if he was further from here for a few more minutes, his 6 hours of robbery wouldn't be wasted. On the bright side, I exchanged storage devices with Eldris. Things could have gone way worse if I hadn't. Gustav recalled making the decision to leave the Iro Silk with Eldris' empty storage button. Still, I won't let things slide, Gustav decided as he deactivated God Eyes. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thrazes. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thrazes. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thraz. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thrazes. Lightning Blitz has been activated, Thrazes. After turning into a lightning bolt 5 times and streaking across a distance of over 800 miles in just a few moments, Lightning Blitz went into cooldown mode. Gustav was still over 600 miles away from their location and they were currently on the move, but he had decided not to let this situation be bygones. Ultimate combination has been activated. We're being chased, one of the Fixit group members voiced as the group made their way across a frozen ridge. It is Earth's captain, the team member with mirror-like white eyes voiced. He will never get to us in time, Fixit group captain voiced as numerical figures appeared in his line of sight. 10 seconds, Alpha D Alpha Eta Theta Epsilon Theta M, 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, Thiahis. The Viander Egg Challenge has officially come to a finish. A loud announcement reverberated across the 4th disk as well as other disks on planet Ozius. On the 9th disk, the sound of tense dialogues could be heard from all over. Chatter. 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 Dash. Who do you think won? Dash. My money is with the Fixit group. They may not have acquired any eggs during the first 2 to 3 weeks, but their act at the last few days puts them at the top. Dash. I don't think Earth will remain in the top spot. That group acquired too many eggs. The Draconids acquired many as well from weaker planets before time ran out. Dash. Honestly, I don't believe Earth participants would even be top 3. After the second week they just hid in one place till the challenge ended. Dash. The last-minute battle Gustav Crimson had with the Fixit though, it looked like something happened before time was up. Speculations about who would win could be heard all across the 9th disc, and now Earth was not even considered to be the top spot anymore based on the last events that occurred on the 4th disc. Some of the spectators had witnessed a battle going down between Gustav and the Fixit group, who were speculated to be the first position just before time ran out. Sing! 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 Currently ISUP participants were appearing on the podium in the midst of the arena in tens. They were all getting teleported out of the 4th disc, and as they arrived, they seemed to have brought an air of coldness with them. Finally we're back here where the temperature is fairly normal. He voiced with a sigh of relief as he stood side by side with the others. Every group that had been battling before the challenge ended remained in place despite exuding an air of animosity. They couldn't attack each other anymore now that the challenge had ended, or it would lead to disqualification. Where have you been, Gus? Timmy questioned the moment Gustav appeared. There were cuts on his face, and his entire right arm happened to be charred. However, right before their very eyes Gustav happened to be regenerating very quickly. Underneath his armpit area were 2 viander eggs which he held with a slight look of dissatisfaction despite being unbothered about his injuries. I ran into some trouble. Chapter 12:17 Underneath his armpit area were 2 viander eggs which he held with a slight look of dissatisfaction despite being unbothered about his injuries. I ran into some trouble, Gustav voiced before turning to face Eldris. Eldris nodded and handed the storage button in his possession to Gustav. As Gustav made use of gravitational manipulation, the eggs in his grasp floated while he passed Eldris' storage button back to him as well. Sing! Sing! The 2 viander eggs vanished from sight at the same moment all of Gustav's burns and cuts healed up completely. Alpha D Alpha Theta Nu Epsilon Theta M. All captains are required to place the eggs they have acquired into any of the flaming cauldrons for proper calculation. Handler 1's voice reverberated across the entire vicinity, as flaming cauldrons began rising from the ground at the corners of the arena. Each cauldron was as large as a full-grown human, so there wouldn't be any issues with putting the viander eggs in. The captains began heading to the cauldrons to place their eggs in. At the moment, the screens floating above displayed the scoreboards without scores. Only the planet names were visible. Each time a captain placed a viander egg in one of the cauldrons, scores would appear before their planet name on the screens and their position would move up. In a couple of minutes about 300 captains had emptied the contents of their storage into the cauldron, and the calculation of scores was still ongoing. Some captains didn't move from their standing point since a lot of planets didn't manage to acquire a single viander egg at the end of the challenge. Besides this, some planet groups also lost their eggs to the Fixit participants before the end of the viander challenge. Their animosity was currently fueled as they glared in the direction of the Fixit captain who was walking over to one of the cauldrons. It almost seemed like the captains who were suspected of holding the highest number of viander eggs by the participants finally decided to move at this point. As Gustav stepped forward with his storage button in hand, so did Ozius, Oxlurkic, Zionsi, Draconitz, and a couple other captains as well. Captain Strum glared at Gustav from the corner of his eyes as the animosity in the air grew higher at this point. Gustav's face remained expressionless as he stepped forward, ignoring the stares from everyone. Bolstrin, the captain of the Fixit planet, happened to be structured like a mechanical red upper humanoid body and the lower body of an arachnid-like creature with 32 legs. The number of participants glaring at him in animosity happened to be way higher than others, but the mechanical-like creature didn't seem to care as a black metal liquid appeared before him. Viander eggs began to phase out of this floating black liquid metal which he placed in the flaming cauldron one after the other. Dash. That bastard! Dash. They robbed you too? Dash. My group is a victim as well and we only acquired 2 eggs. Dash. They'll make sure he pays in the next challenge. Some of the participants seemed to be triggered as they stared at the number of eggs that kept phasing out of the black liquid metal. Seeing so many of the eggs, the other captains who had placed their eggs in a cauldron already lost all flicker of hope they initially had. Humph, we may lose this one but our great planet will remain on top. Captain Strum scoffed as he placed the last egg from his storage into the egg. Staring up at the scoreboard, his eyes widened a little as he spotted the current situation. 1. Planet Fixic, 30 Viander eggs greater than 12,000 points. 2. Planet Diaperonian, 22 Viander eggs greater than 8,800 points. 3. Planet Draconet, 21 Viander eggs greater than 8,400 points. 4. Planet Ozius, 20 Viander eggs greater than 8,000 points. 5. Planet Hixto, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 6. Planet Diov, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 7. Planet Tronvita, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. 8. Planet Earth, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. THS scoreboard was still counting since the captains were still inputting their eggs, which was why Captain Strum was shocked when he noticed a considerably weaker planet was currently first position. He couldn't fathom how this was possible, especially since he had dropped every egg in his position into the cauldron already. While he didn't expect to have the first spot anymore due to his suspicions about Earth after the scoreboard was displayed at the ending of the second week. They had only managed to acquire 4 more eggs than what Earth acquired at the end of the second week when the challenge finally ended, so he wasn't very optimistic. Planet Fixic, he growled while turning to stare in the direction of their captain. Captain Bolstron still happened to not have finished dropping all the eggs in his possession into the cauldron. The spectators were going bonkers at this point as everyone seemed to be hinged on the fact that Planet Fixic had won. Roalpha Dialpha and Nuom. After a few more seconds the rankings on the scoreboard had undergone change once more. 1. Planet Fixic, 41 Viander eggs greater than 16,400 points. 2. Planet Earth, 40 Viander eggs greater than 16,000 points. 3. Planet Diaperonian, 22 Viander eggs greater than 8,800 points. 4. Planet Draconet, 21 Viander eggs greater than 8,400 points. 5. Planet Ozius, 20 Viander eggs greater than 8,000 points. 6. Planet Hixto, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 7. Planet Diov, 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 8. Planet Tronvita, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. 9. Planet Oxlurk, 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. Dash. Planet Fixic 1. Dash. Earth came very close. If they had one more egg it would be a draw. Dash. The statistics are unbelievable. How did this happen? Dash. I did not even expect to see the Earth in top 3. Who knew they gathered this much? Chatter. 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 The entire place had turned noisier as Captain Bolstron could be seen heading back to where his other teammates were positioned. If Earth's captain had not taken 2 back out of the 4 we stole from him, we would have gotten totaled 17,200 points, but the current statistics isn't bad either, he thought as he walked back to his teammates' area. This undoubtedly meant that he had inputted all the eggs in his possession into the flaming cauldron. However, Gustav still seemed to be standing before the cauldron in front of him unmoving. The spectators as well as other participants felt that he must have been shocked by the results above, as acquiring such a number of eggs would make one believe they had definitely won. While the environment was extremely noisy, Gustav was in his thoughts. I really wanted to experiment on some and see what makes it so important. I guess I can't do that now. Gustav was internally at loss as he reached for his storage button. Tap. He singled out 2 sphere-shaped objects that were emitted in holographic format from his storage button, and right before everyone's eyes, an unexpected scenario played out. Zing zing, 2 multicolored 3 feet large eggs appeared before Gustav. Dash. What? He had 2 more? Dash. How in the world does he have more? Dash. This is unbelievable. Dash. Why did he stand there all this time if he still had more? The spectators' areas lit up in a frenzy once more as this unexpected occurrence took them completely by surprise. At the position of the handlers, they had a look of relief as they watched Gustav drop these 2 eggs into the flaming cauldron before him. Planet Ozius were 5th place currently, yet the handlers seemed to be relieved when Gustav relinquished the last 2 Viander eggs in his possession, putting Earth at the top. If Gustav had noticed them, he would definitely have found this suspicious. However, his mind was currently elsewhere. What a loss! Oh well, Gustav decided to stop being bothered about it, and turned around at this point. He had wanted to keep the last 2 eggs he stole back from the Fixit group to himself, but he eventually had to drop them or Earth would have lost. Chatter! Chatter! Cheer! Cheer! While there were loud voices of confusion and displeasure all across, the cheers coming from the Earth spectators area happened to be very loud as well. You sure gave us a scare there, Gus. Looks like you were taking your time to cause this type of reaction. Everyone began voicing out one after the other upon Gustav's return. Yeah, I wanted to keep an egg for myself, but I guess you'll just have to let things be. Gustav shrugged as Earth completely became the center of attention at this point. This isn't possible? How? On Planet Fixit area they were plenty shocked as to how they still lost the first place despite how many groups they stole from. After a couple more minutes went by, the final result of the Viander Egg Challenge was on display for everyone to see. Chapter 12-18 Confrontation. After a couple more minutes went by, the final result of the Viander Egg Challenge was on display for everyone to see. 1. Planet Earth 42 Viander eggs greater than 16,800 points. 2. Planet Fixit 41 Viander eggs greater than 16,400 points. 3. Planet Diaperonian 22 Viander eggs greater than 8,800 points. 4. Planet Draconet 21 Viander eggs greater than 8,400 points. 5. Planet Ozius 20 Viander eggs greater than 8,000 points. 6. Planet Hixtos 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 7. Planet Diov 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800 points. 8. Planet Tronvita 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. 9. Planet Oxlurk 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000 points. 10. Planet Indulus Prime 14 Viander eggs greater than 5,600 points. 11. Planet Tribtes 14 Viander eggs greater than 5,600 points. 12. Planet Gundabalt 14 Viander eggs greater than 5,600 points. 13. Planet Zillion 13 Viander eggs greater than 5,200 points. 14. Planet Claxosape 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 15. Planet Taurin 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 16. Planet Cyrus 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 17. Planet Osiris 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 18. Planet Orion 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400 points. 19. Planet Astambid 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 20. Planet Va 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 21. Planet Roidenstack 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000 points. 22. Planet V #B9 Viander eggs greater than 3,600 points. 23. Planet Kivendale 9 Viander eggs greater than 3,600 points. 24. Planet T429 9 Viander eggs 3,600. The final results displayed on the scoreboard undoubtedly solidified Earth's place as number 1 in the Egg Viander Challenge. The handler went on to congratulate the Earth's candidates for winning, ignoring loud chatters that reverberated across the vicinity. It had been a very long 3 weeks, and the handler went on to announce that there would be about 4 days of rest before the next major challenge. During this time frame only sub-challenges would be ongoing so the main team from every planetary group could recuperate. While the handler gave briefings, Gustav wondered if they were going to mention the other dimension in between the 4th and 5th disc. He eventually realized they weren't going to mention it, Either were they going to say anything about the Diaperonians who went in with 20 participants, and came out with only 10. The Diaperonians weren't the only group that lost teammates during the Viander Egg Challenge, however, they were the only group that had purposely sacrificed their teammates. The other groups had lost teammates in accidents or dangerous situations. No one that lost their life did so due to another participant. Gustav figured that since the handlers were not going to say a word about this, then there was a high chance footage within the other dimension on the fourth disc was not displayed. He was right. The spectators, as well as every ISOP participant besides Earth and the Diaperonians, no one was aware of the other dimension. I wonder why they decided to keep all of it a secret, Gustav thought. Well, I guess it's normal for every great planet to have a secret or two, or more than two. The system responded internally. So long as they don't put anyone I care about in harm's way, it's fine, I guess. Gustav felt he had more things to worry about than the intricacies of an alien planet. He recalled he wouldn't have a moment of rest after ISOP ended because there was something he instantly had to do. If he could leave ISOP midway he would, since he considered that more important, but as the captain, he couldn't just abandon everyone. Currently Handler 1 was announcing that they were closing in on the mid-phase of ISOP and it was finally time for the first round of disqualifications. The main scoreboard appeared on the floating screens above, displaying the points every planet had acquired since the start of the competition. The Earth has an allocation of 20,000 extra points after coming first in the Viander Egg Challenge. Planet Earth 55,800 points, Planet Draconet 34,400 points, Planet Osius 31,000 points, Planet Indulus Prime 27,600 points, Planet Tribe Tez 27,100 points, Planet Fixic 25,400 points, Planet Osiris 24,400 points. Gustav stared at the main scoreboard and could see that the results had been updated. Earth was initially 6th place overall with a score of 19,000 points. Now, with the combination of the points from the eggs gathered along with the bonus from being the first place in the latest challenge, they had given Planet Draconet quite the gap. Planet Fixic may have lost the first place in the Viander Egg Challenge, but they gained enough points to climb to 6th place from their initial 542nd position. The Viander Egg Challenge was said to be the challenge where the highest number of points can be gathered compared to other major challenges, and there was no doubt about that right now. The current scores would make it difficult for others to contend, but they still had hope due to the fact that not even 50% of ISOP challenges had been scaled yet. Teams that have acquired lower than 5,000 points will now be disqualified. Handler 1 announced as everyone placed their focus on the bottom parts of the rankings. There were still close to 3,000 participants' planets at this point, but now that it was time for disqualification, over 900 planets didn't make the cut. At number 1927, Planet Vorisha was the last with the 5,000 points required. Every other number after had less than 5,000 points. Sing! 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 Groups began to disappear one after the other from the middle of the arena. This obviously marked the disqualification of weaker and less remarkable planetary groups, leaving the other nearly 2,000 planetary groups remaining. While the number had whittled down by a lot, there were still many groups left. I'm guessing the next disqualification round will happen after the next two major challenges, Gustav said out loud. So long as our points are high, we should be fine, right? Timmy questioned from the side. It depends on what the next requirement is placed upon. This time it is points, but it might be something else next time. Gustav responded with a dismissive tone so as not to make anyone worry. I feel like I've been getting really nefarious glares. Glade voice from the side. That's normal. We're first position, remember? Teeny stated from the side. It feels different from that. Glade added with a slightly creased eyebrows. You're just overthinking, Falco chimed in. Everyone felt this was the usual since they had all engaged in battle with a couple of participants who were still here. Handler 1 mentioned a few more things before finally dispersing the crowd as he officially announced once more that the Viander Egg Challenge had ended. The participants began to make their way out of middle of the arena at this point, when suddenly Gustav's path was blocked by a figure with multiple limbs and star-shaped patterns all across his body. We have unfinished business, Captain Strum stated as he emitted an outburst of energy. Whoosh! Blaring winds blasted across the vicinity as dust was stirred up as well. Oh! The participants in the vicinity instantly moved aside to avoid getting caught, and as they spectated, the official spectators in the spectators' corners all paused as well. SSS-1? Planet Earth 17 Viander eggs greater than 6,800.2. Planet Diaperonian 15 Viander eggs greater than 6,000.3. Planet Osius 12 Viander eggs greater than 4,800.4. Planet Draconet 11 Viander eggs greater than 4,400.5. Planet Hixto 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000.6. Planet Diov 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000.7. Planet Indulus Prime 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000.8. Planet Tribtes 10 Viander eggs greater than 4,000.9. Planet Gundabalt 9 Viander eggs greater than 3,600.10. Planet Zillion 8 Viander eggs greater than 3,200.11. Planet Claxosape 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.12. Planet Oxlurk 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.13. Planet Cyrus 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.14. Planet Osiris 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.15. Planet Orion 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.16. Planet Astambit 7 Viander eggs greater than 2,800.17. Planet Va 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.18. Planet Roidenstack 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.19. Planet V #B6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.20. Planet Kivendale 6 Viander eggs greater than 2,400.21. Planet T429 6 Viander eggs 2,400. Gustav reappeared before a flaming frosted tree in the next instant. Up ahead he could spot another familiar-looking cave. This was one he already looted, so he didn't bother going in. Instead he turned to another direction before heading forward. Since these flaming trees that don't get consumed signify checkpoints for areas with caves possessing the same colors of eggs, there's no point in checking the other caves. Gustav was well aware that he would find the same eggs colors he got from this cave earlier, which was still in his possession. He needed other colors, so he had to leave this area. Phew! Gustav leapt into the air and disappeared from sight in the next instant. That is exactly why I have come here. The leaders of the Alliance need to be warned. Within the seating area of Earth's spectators, Miss Amy voiced out. Are you sure? For such a claim, proof is needed or no one would be willing to take your word for it. Grand Commander Cheyenne responded. 62C5B29427008FD12A9AD975E follow current novels on top novelful.com. Chapter 12-19 Reunion with an Old Friend. Oh, but then, wouldn't it be delusional to think you could win against an opponent that is clearly more powerful than you are? Wang had an expression of confusion as he questioned. If the disparity in strength is immense, then yes, but if not, then there is definitely a chance of winning. Loss or win in a battle cannot be decided by strength alone. Uncertain and unexpected factors can lead to a completely turn of events during a battle. Gustav responded. Do you think you can defeat him? Wang asked. A smile appeared on Gustav's face after hearing this question. I guess we'll find out soon enough. The group also followed side by side with Gustav as they headed towards their accommodation area. As the participants witnessing the initial events by the side dispersed, two figures with transparent skin, green-eyed and white radish-shaped head, glared in the direction of the Earth participants leaving. Dash. We shall revenge the humiliation they brought upon my brother. Dash. That human must die by our hands. Their eyes displayed a solemn resolve as they swore. Gustav. A loud and cheerful voice rang out the instant they arrived back at their accommodation area. A warm, soft and feminine figure had jumped into Gustav's embrace, enveloping him in an alluring fragrance. Gustav slowly wrapped his hands around the slim waist of the familiar figure that had just hugged him. Angie, he muttered while slowly caressing her back while her body meshed onto his. The tip of her short horns poked his chest area, but he was unbothered by that as he held her tightly in his embrace for a couple of moments. Asterisk cough cough asterisk we're still here guys. Matilda voiced from the side. Asterisk squeal asterisk. Angie quickly separated from Gustav as a red tinge appeared on her cheeks. She looked up and down shyly while greeting the rest of her teammates. Are you alright? Matilda hugged Angie with a smile. Oh? Did you get larger? Matilda voiced while cupping Angie's boobs and softly squishing them. Eek. No. Angie scurried away like a flustered chicken while Gustav shifted his gaze. You had us pretty worried when you passed out. Falco voiced from the side. I just used something I wasn't supposed to, Angie replied. We're glad you're alright or homeboy here would have gone back to being grumpy and cold. He stated from the side as well while pointing at Gustav. The group laughed while Gustav ignored their taunts, taking his seat at the corner. The group seemed relieved that Angie was back. She was no doubt a valuable asset to the team as well as someone who was cared about by all. They hoped she would have recovered enough to join the next major challenge. You guys won. Angie was both delighted and slightly low-spirited at the same time. The group can function well even with my absence. They don't need me, she thought. It was difficult without you. A hand that had reached out to touch her shoulder brought her out of her reverie. We had to put in more than 100% effort due to your absence, which is something we can't do all the time. The group is incomplete without you. It was as if Eldris had read her mind as he spoke with a warm smile. Angie's face lit up as she nodded in response. Man, I need to take a shower. This is the first time I didn't take a bath in 3 weeks. He had a look of self-disgust as he voiced out. Make that 2, Timmy yelled from the side. Make that 3, Yonda stated as well. Make that 4, make that 5, make that 6, make that 7, it'll just create a hot bath then. All the boys soon joined, turning to leave for the exit. Are you not joining us, Gus? He questioned. It's a hot bath. No, Gustav replied with a dismissive expression. Ah, come on man, don't be boring, let's bask in nakedness together. Everyone turned to stare at Abestos with a suspicious expression as soon as he said that. I mean, he chuckled wryly. You mean bask in dirtiness together? Hard pass. Gustav waved his hand. Minutes later, Gustav sat in the hot bath together with the rest of the boys who were playing around and splashing water all across the place. Why did I even agree to this? He voiced in regret. Lighten up. In a flash, 3 days had gone by, and during this time period, the Earth participants had spent their time recuperating and preparing for the next major challenge. Gustav had allocated the rest of the 30 substitutes to different subcategories to participate in. None of the main teammates took any part in the subcategories in the last 3 days. Gustav made sure to pick substitutes suiting for each sub-challenge, and even though a few of them failed, he wasn't bothered about it. During this time, unrest had been growing amongst the participants as rumors of the supposed next major challenge spread. There were a couple different thoughts on what it might be, but Gustav couldn't believe any of them since the Ozas hadn't announced it themselves. Gustav was sure that information was getting leaked from somewhere, and some alien teams had access to it just as the Diaperonians were aware of the other dimension before entering the 4th disk. He knew it couldn't be mere coincidence that they just happened to possess knowledge of rituals and sacrifices that would lead them to the other dimension. Gustav couldn't mention this to just anyone since he didn't have concrete evidence that someone amongst the board of handlers was spilling things. However, he did mention it to Miss Amy. It must be a rotten mouse. No planet is void of corruption, Miss Amy said as they walked through an open market area on the 9th disk. The triangular structures stacked atop each other with the long rods poking through their middle into the sky above, gave off a spectacular sight. The golden roads were an even more delightful sight as floating boards flew across the air on the night disk, which gave off a slightly similar vibe to Earth. No doubt, but this could harm our chances in the future. If I had never encountered that other dimension by mistake, the Diaperonians would no doubt have one. Gustav responded. I can't go talk to those old geezers since I confronted them only recently. I'll have to investigate on my own, Miss Amy voiced. Wait, who did you confront? Gustav paused while questioning with a suspicious look. Those old geezers, what do they call themselves? Council lords, I believe, Miss Amy replied with a ridiculing tone. You confronted the council lords? Why? Gustav questioned once more with a worried tone. About the incoming danger. The eye that appeared in the Milky Way, Miss Amy responded. But we don't know much about that yet. Gustav nearly facepalmed. Exactly. If there is a joint investigation from the resources powers all across the universe, it would make things faster and ease the burden on your side too, Miss Amy explained. True, Gustav agreed. Those geezers were annoying. The idiots think I am out of my mind, Miss Amy voiced with a calm but cold tone. I hope you didn't kill anyone? Gustav stared at her from the side of his eyes with a suspicious look once more. Miss Amy! He yelled her name when she failed to respond. I didn't, but next time I might not be so nice, she voiced with a straight face. I see why they say I took after her, Gustav sighed in relief as they continued moving about. Gustav and Miss Amy went on to tour the 8th disc after their time on the 9th disc. Gustav was still unaware that Miss Amy's real body had arrived in planet Osius, and was floating in the stars above. She was currently staring down upon the planet like a guardian angel from space, but not a single soul was aware of her presence except for Grand Commander Cheyenne, who only found out because she chose to tell him. Now to find the corrupt mouse responsible for spilling information, Miss Amy muttered in space as she peered forward. Before the day ended, Gustav happened to meet a familiar individual he hadn't seen in about a year. Stark? What are you doing here? Gustav was pleasantly surprised to see the leader of one of the biggest families on Earth right here. Did you forget that my family is very rich? Stark responded sarcastically as his dark braids swam in the wind. You're late. I didn't think they'd let anyone join the spectators at this time, Gustav said with a light chuckle. Yeah, there was a lot going on back home which caused my lateness, but let me not bore you with the details, Stark voiced with a strong tone. 62C5B29427008FD12E9 add 975E follow current novels on top novelful. Com. Chapter 1220. Yeah, there was a lot going on back home which caused my lateness, but let me not bore you with the details, Stark voiced with a strong tone. Something about you him has changed, Gustav thought. How has taking on the responsibility of the family head been treating you? Gustav questioned. Well, it for sure isn't easy, but somehow I made it work. Stark had a slight change in expression that Gustav caught for a second before it went away. You've gotten way stronger since the last time I saw you, Stark voiced with a tone of astonishment. So have you, you're an alpha now? Gustav said with a surprised expression as he finally sensed Stark's bloodline rank. It's the emblem. I'm not a true alpha, Stark responded quickly while waving his hand to dismiss the misconception. Are you just saying that to make you look weaker than you are? Gustav eyed knitted as he voiced out. No, it's true, haha, I'm not really an alpha. It's the emblem fooling you. I'm not actually supposed to tell anyone that. Stark started off with a laughter before turning into a whispering at the end of the sentence. But no doubt I can sense that you have really increased Jan's strength. Gustav decided to take his word for it, but was also sure Stark had increased in strength. Well, I can do the three-headed draconic transformation now, Stark revealed as they moved around. Congratulations on that. You should be able to rule much easier, Gustav voiced in response. I guess. Thank you once again for your help back then. You really saved my life in more ways than one, Stark said with a smile. I was just doing my job. Gustav nodded. Speaking of job, do your guards need to keel following us? I doubt you're in any form of danger around here, Gustav added while squinting his eyes. Ha ha ha, I knew you would be able to sense them. Stark laughed lightly as he turned to the side. Viltru, ask him, Stark called out. Thir. Thry. Two figures classed in robe-like outfits appeared beside Stark in the next instant. Family head, they both voiced out simultaneously. He was aware of you guys' presence. Stark chuckled. That is quite remarkable, Officer Crimson, Biltra voiced with a tone of astonishment. Gustav didn't even know how to respond to that. He had noticed them since the start, so he didn't even find it remotely remarkable since it felt normal to him. There's no need to keep following me everywhere in disguise, I'm not in any danger, Stark voiced out. We cannot comply with that, family head. We have to remain at close proximity at all times, Biltra stated while the other guard nodded. Stark shrugged in defeat as he stared back at Gustav. Follow me back to our accommodation quarters, Gustav voiced before leaping into the air. Flyy wings sprouted out of his back and a loud flap reverberated across the vicinity. You're on. A smile appeared on Stark's face as his skin turned smooth and shiny. Golden scales appeared all over his body as he increased immensely in size while massive wings spread forth from his back. In a couple of moments, he had completely transformed into a nearly 30 feet large draconic figure, with 3 heads, 16 horns and blazing yellowish eyes. A powerful aura spread forth from his being across the vicinity, attracting the attention of everyone in the area as he flapped his wings. Fwohum's Stark figure instantly ascended into the sky, disappearing into the distance as powerful winds blasted across the vicinity. He caught up with Gustav in barely a few moments. You're still slower than me. His deep and menacing voice was heard along with a light chuckle. I let you catch up, Gustav responded from the side. Then by all means, go all out. Stark kicked his draconic feet in midair like an excited little child as he spoke. We're here, Gustav voiced before pausing his flight in midair. Oh, that was short, Stark responded as he quickly made a turn in midair after flying past the structure below. Within an unknown accommodation area, a group of 5 could be seen having a meeting of sorts. They all had similar body features. Transparent skins, green eyes and an oddly shaped reddish-like head. One of the members within the gathering seemed to be currently speaking. She humiliated my brother! He is still recovering and cannot join us for the next major challenge. Even after ISOP is over, this humiliation will follow him for the rest of his days. Everyone witnessed what he became after that Earthling used her power on him. They witnessed his utter nakedness and the form he would take in old age. His tafaka out on display. He will never be the same. Never! The person speaking happened to be seething with rage. And that is why she must pay, he added. With her life, the problem is, we cannot kill a participant on purpose without getting disqualified. Another one of them voiced. Then we shan't kill them on purpose, or at least we will have to make it look like it wasn't on purpose. Alpha the Alpha and Nuam. You're right, Yuzuki. We still haven't paid the captain for what he did to Unda. Let's see how he feels after he loses one of his teammates. The first one responded. How can we make it look like it is not on purpose? Last I checked, the Earthlings are very strong, so killing any one of them without getting into a fight where attacks are traded doesn't seem possible. One of them stated. There's only one way. It had to be done in a single attack. We have to make sure that Earthling loses her life with a single attack. That way we can pretend it was a mistake, especially since the mixed-blood Earthlings are known to be quite durable. Oriman voiced. If that is the case, we need an ultimate killing attack. One that will guarantee instant death no matter how powerful the opponent is. One that cannot be guarded against. Yuzuki voiced. We have to ask Master Sherman for help without letting the captain know. In another accommodation area, a group of 20 formed a circle. They all had bandage-like black clothes wrapped around their bodies from bottom to top, leaving only their eyes exposed. However, even their eyes were pitch black and soulless looking. They stood in place for a bit with dark mist emitting from their figures. In their midst, the dark mist formed a pair of one-shaped green eyeballs that seemed to be speaking. Have you made confirmation? We need more time, Prime Vessel G. The captain spoke with a raspy tone. The kid, is he worthy? He is fighting the possession of the crown. The next day arrived very quickly and the ISOP participants began to make their way across to the arena. SSS. Anyone would think they have arrived at the edge of the fourth disc if they saw this. Gustav muttered. Indeed, however, you and I are aware that there is something down there. The system added. It is pretty deep though. Gustav's eyes squinted. There was no way to tell if anyone was down there from this height, but Gustav's intuition told him there was definitely danger and fortune at the bottom, or at least on the way to it. You're not telling me everything again, right? Gustav said with a suspicious tone. Since you already know how things are, why do you still bother asking? The system retorted. TCH. Gustav proceeded to step forward at this point. His body began to rapidly fall through the air into the depths of the unknown. Surprisingly, as he descended, the darkness had reduced due to the glowing lines which he occasionally phased through during his descent. However, mist became visible upon further descent, which became denser and denser, impairing visual capabilities. The mist around him had become too dense that one couldn't even see their own body, but Gustav's high perception made it so this wasn't a problem. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, 50,000 feet. It felt like Gustav had been falling for ages, but he didn't wish to increase his speed just yet because he was unaware of what to expect. Alpha D Alpha to Theta Epsilon 110,000 feet, 120,000 feet, 140,000 feet, 160,000 feet, 200,000 feet, 300,000 feet. As Gustav continued to descend, he began to feel moist. Usually the dense fog was enough to make one feel moist, but this was different. His body began to rapidly fall through the air into the depths of the unknown. Surprisingly, as he descended, the darkness had reduced due to the glowing lines which he occasionally phased through during his descent. However, mist became visible upon further descent, which became denser and denser, impairing visual capabilities. The mist around him had become too dense that one couldn't even see their own body, but Gustav's high perception made it so this wasn't a problem. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet, 50,000 feet. Chapter 12:21 Beast Haven Survival Challenges. Upon Handler 1 appearance, the arena quietened. It was time for the briefing of the next major challenge. Welcome back to you all, and I commend the lots of you that have made it this far. I believe you are all ready to dive into the next challenge as well. Handler 1 began with this as everyone focused their attention on him. The participants, who were over 60,000 in total initially, were now around 40,000 down there. The arena without a doubt was still large enough to accommodate them all. A wheel with multiple weird images appeared on the screens floating above. Some of the images happened to be crossed out as the ISOP candidates already participated in these challenges. It turned out that they were going to use the wheel to decide the next major challenge. This was contrary to the rumors that had been flying around, since the next challenge would practically be decided on a random. Handler 1 gave the other for the wheel to spin, and it began rotating immediately. The arrow placed in the middle signified that the wheel had stopped before a challenge that had already been scaled through in the past. After 2 more tries, the arrow tip was finally pointed at a different image. This happened to look like a bunch of unknown creatures stacked together. Survival in the Beast Haven. Handler 1 voiced with an interesting tone. This one seems interesting. He voiced from the side. Survival? Doesn't seem thrilling to me. Timmy shook his head. As for this challenge, participants are required to survive in the Beast Haven for a particular amount of time. As the name implies, you shall try to escape the onslaught of thousands upon thousands of beasts gathered from all across the universe. The versatility of species makes things more interesting, as the beasts have different capabilities and traits that makes them dangerous. To add, the supernatural abilities of all participants shall be restricted. Handler 1 stated. See, I just knew it couldn't be good. Timmy nearly yelled out as he heard the last sentence. Our abilities will be restricted, meanwhile we have to survive being in the same space with a bunch of beasts from all across the universe? He voiced from the side. That seems unfair. Sheila complained but instantly turned excited. This will be fun, you're crazy, Glade stated. Only my hubby can call me that. Sheila responded while staring at Endrick with a loving gaze. Pedo. There are 3 zones within the Beast Haven. Handler 1 went on to continue explaining. The participants listened carefully as it seemed like this Beast Haven survival challenge was more tricky than it seemed on the surface. Participants shall be provided with the Eye of Bracelet. This bracelet helps you with 2 things. First, gathering life points. Second is the possession of 3 random generated attacks that might assist you in a dangerous situation. Only 3 random attacks are stored within the bracelet, and after the usage of all 3, your bracelet will only be useful for gathering life points unless you manage to acquire an attack crate, which is usually located in the red zones. Handler 1 kept explaining to them about the entirety of the challenge, and all they needed to do while it was ongoing. He didn't skip any details and informed them properly of what they were meant to look out for. While it seemed like a very dangerous challenge, there were still a couple of safety measures put in place. Zing 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 zing. A purplish plated bracelet with 3 glowing red dots on its surface began appearing before everyone. The participants figured that this was the Eye of Bracelet and wasted no time in equipping it. A protective purplish helmet of sorts appeared on their faces after they equipped it. As for the alien participants who didn't have a face, it appeared on the parts of their bodies that were capable of air inhalation. A red like huish glow covered everyone's figure as well, and a numeric figure appeared above their heads. These numerical figures were also displayed on the screens of their helmets from within so they could see it in their line of sight like how Gustav would usually see notification panels. 00125 points. Everyone had the same figures, and according to the handler, this was called life points, which would have a 5-point deduction after every hour spent in the Beast Haven. If all points were deducted before the challenge came to an end, it automatically meant disqualification. Handler 1 also happened to mention that attacks from the beasts caused deduction in life points, so of course the participants had to be careful. Handler 1 explained a few more things to the participants before officially announcing that the challenge would begin in 30 seconds. Is there a plan, Captain? Shirama questioned from the side. I have a couple, but let's go with the safest, which includes using our limited attacks in moderation. Gustav went on to explain to the group about his plan. Since they couldn't use their abilities, they were really handicapped, especially since they had no idea about what random attack was stored in their bracelet. There was no tell if it would be useful in the whatever future scenarios they might find themselves. The main aim was to stick with a large group, especially if they left the green zone. The Beast Haven Survival Challenge will commence now. A loud automated voice rang out across the 9th disc. In the next instant, the participants were teleported out of the arena. They reappeared on a particular location on the 6th disc afterwards. Everyone had been briefed, so they were instantly aware that they were in the Beast Haven. We were teleported to a green zone. It looks like we might not need to move for a while, Ildris voiced as he looked around. Gustav could see that they were currently at the summit of a pillar-like black rock that was around 2,000 feet tall. The top of this rock was circular but covered a small radius of around 300 feet. The summit emitted a green light from the ground, which obviously meant they were in a green zone. Anyone could easily fall off due to the number of participants that had gotten teleported here. However, one could instantly tell that not every participant was teleported to the top of this particular rock. In this area, there happened to be hundreds of similar-looking pillar-like rocks scattered across the place. They protruded from the ground below like they were pieces of massive nails. The ground was quite the distance away, and no one could leap off this giant piece of nail-like rock without breaking their bodies to pieces, since supernatural abilities were restricted. Luckily, we all appeared on the same place since we were close to each other. Timmy heaved a sigh of relief after speaking. Indeed, but we cannot stay here forever, Gustav stated while standing at the edge and staring down. The ground below was rough but void of any creatures, as one would expect. One couldn't see into the distance, so it was hard to tell what lay beyond. It was really a long way down, and without abilities, they'd have to climb down carefully or they'd fall to their death. Based on the briefings, even though this was a green zone, they had limited time here. There were 3 types of zones in total. The green zones happened to be areas where the beasts couldn't get to no matter what. They were completely safe. The yellow zones was where they could head to gather life points. The Beast Haven was not conducive for any living creature, but the beasts within were all immune to the toxic nature of the environment. No other living creature would be able to bear it, no matter how powerful they were. The bracelet gave them enough protection with the helmet and the life points, which would dwindle with time if they didn't try to renew it. The green zones made sure that the participants were safe, but they really couldn't stay there forever since they were bound to run out of life points. Despite Gustav being immune to any toxin, the bracelet would still dwindle in life points since its sole purpose is to stop any toxin in the vicinity from coming close to a participant. So long as it was functional, Gustav would have to participate in this challenge normally. As for the red zones, it went without us saying that places like that were filled with the beastly creatures they were supposed to avoid. The yellow zones were not safe from the beasts, but the red zone were hellish areas. The red zones were only useful for one thing: restocking attacks in the bracelet. A participant had 3 one-time use attacks. However, in the red zones, there were restocking crates that would help renew the attacks after they had been used. Chapter 12:22 Every participant bracelet was equipped with 3 one-time use attacks. However, in the red zones, there were restocking crates that would help renew the attacks after they had been used. The participants had crossed out the idea of ever going to a red zone because they deemed it too dangerous, so everyone threw thoughts of restocking to the backs of their minds. Gustav could feel the restriction of his abilities as he stood in place, but he didn't try to fight against it. The system abilities, on the other hand, couldn't be restricted in the slightest, so he instructed the system to restrict itself. Gustav didn't see the need to cheat, either did he feel it was smart to do so, considering the footage of their time spent in the Beast Haven was being broadcasted across the planets under the Alliance. One would easily be able to tell if supernatural abilities were used. Unlike the Bloven Tree Challenge, where usual physical strength was allowed due to the weight of the trees, this time even supernatural physical strength had been dampened. It went without us saying that some would still be stronger than others physically, but nevertheless, no one was capable of performing any unusual feats with their current physical capability. 71, 55, 27 The timer could be spotted in the eastern skies, which of course was quite darkened. The entire sky was dimly lit, which also made visibility on the 6th disk very low. It was said to always be like this. Gwr! A loud roar suddenly rang out from the northwest area downwards. This drew the attention of everyone, who instantly turned to stare in that direction. We should be safe here, right? Matilda voiced with a wary tone. That's what the handlers said, so I believe we are, Timmy replied from the side. Alpha di alpha to thetanu epsilon thurum. A giant rectangular-shaped monstrous-looking face suddenly appeared before her across a few centimeters away from the ledge. Kaiar! Matilda screamed in terror as she fell backwards and quickly crawled away from the ledge. The other participants close to the ledge instantly moved away from it as well upon the sighting of this creature. It had appeared so suddenly that everyone had been completely startled due to their slower reaction speed after getting restricted. Gustav could tell what exactly happened even though he was restricted just like the others. This creature had green, rough, patchy-like skin, rectangular head with a massive yellow eye that covered a third of its head, and red like glowing strains extending from its eyeball to its entire lizard-like body. Its 20 feet long tail, which had spikes covering its entirety, was currently extended above the creature's head, rotating with intense speed that allowed the creature to levitate in front of the ledge. The creature was currently like a chopper, with its tail rotating like a blade, which was obviously responsible for its ability to fly. The creature had flown from the distance below to the top of this rock at a speed Gustav wouldn't have considered incredible if he had his supernatural abilities. Gustav remained in place, standing before the ledge as he inspected the creature, while the beast also tilted its head sideways. It almost looked like they were checking each other out. This will be troublesome, a flying beast. If there are more like this, it would make things even more difficult, Gustav thought. Bang! The creature suddenly swiped its claws forward in a bid to decapitate Gustav when a green wall of light stopped the attack. Bang! The force of impact was redirected at the creature, who ended up getting blasted across the air with 3 claw marks appearing on its body. Key! The creature shrieked before its rotating tail tilted in a direction, and it flew off. Do you recognize that creature? Falco questioned after it had flown away. Unfortunately, I do not. Gustav shook his head. This was to be expected since the beasts here were said to have been gathered from all across the universe. Gustav not having any information on one or more of them would absolutely be normal. Roalfa di Alpha Inu What do we even avoid a creature that has flight abilities? Fildhor questioned from the side. We'll have to be careful when leaving the green zone, Gustav stated while bringing up the map of the Beast Haven with his bracelet. The terrain is what matters. We have to pick rough routes that lead to the yellow zone. Routes that make hiding possible just in case we encounter any of these beasts, Gustav added while staring at the map which had green, red and yellow spots. Heaven-piercing rocks, the name of their current location, was displayed on the map, and they could see how much ground it covered. Gustav proceeded to reiterate the plan as he explained why some terrains will be favorable for passage than others. But it's faster to go this way. It would take around 2 hours of hiking to go back and forth with this one. The passage you're suggesting will take us at least 5 hours, Yonda voiced. It is safer, we will have more spots to hide so as to avoid detection, Gustav stated. Gustav was loud enough while concocting this plan for everyone around to hear, but at certain times he would speak very low, restricting the others around from knowing his full plans. There were about 400 participants on this heaven-piercing rock in particular, but a couple of groups were incomplete since they were close to the ledge upon arrival here. It would seem their teammates had been teleported elsewhere. Can we join? This question was what Gustav had been waiting for this entire time. He hid his smirk while turning around. Why would we want to help anyone besides ourselves? It is a survival match and I don't intend for my group to lose, Gustav voiced with a tone of disinterest. It's a survival match, but it doesn't matter if more than a single group remains after the timer counts down completely. We will all just receive points. The reddish 5-foot-tall leaf-like figure spoke with a logical tone. It turned out only himself and 2 more of its teammates were on this platform currently. Then if you wish for me to agree, you must surrender one of your 3 attacks as contribution to the team. You can use the other 2 as you will, but whenever I demand for you to make use of one, you must do as I ask, Gustav demanded with a serious expression. The 3 reddish leaf-like creatures went silent for a bit before moving aside to chat privately for some time. We agree, but you must ensure that we will all move in one accord. The first reddish leaf-like creature who spoke voiced out once more. Not a problem, Gustav agreed. After this, a couple more participants asked to join as well, and Gustav gave them the same offer. In a couple of minutes, the group had grown from 20 to 53. More bodies to be sacrificed if push comes to shove. Things were going exactly as Gustav had planned, unbeknownst to everyone. Some of the teammates were not stoked about having others join them, but Gustav was the captain after all. His decision was ultimate. 4 hours 20 minutes of traveling back and forth, but just in case of any issues let's bump that up to 6 hours. Falco voiced from the side. We are all restricted currently, so fatigue is to be expected and a couple other inconveniences as well. Ildris nodded. We had 25 hours from the 125 life points we started with, which of course can be deducted if we receive damage from a beast. Leaving when we have around 30 life points left wouldn't be very smart since we have to put uncertainties into account. Well, leave when we're down to 50 life points, Gustav voiced lengthily. He calculated that they still had around 14 hours in the green zone till only 50 life points were left. The others agreed with Gustav's thought process, and they all made a conscious decision to rest in the meantime while preparing their mental state. Time went by very quickly, and before everyone knew it, close to 15 hours had gone by already. 123 at this time, not a single participant had been disqualified. Everyone was teleported to a green zone upon arrival here, so this was to be expected. It didn't seem like anyone had left the green zone yet, but that was about to change. It's time to go, guys, Gustav voiced as he stood to his feet. What if those creatures can see us right now? We didn't put that into account. Matilda still seemed scared. It doesn't matter whether or not they can see us. We can't stay here forever or we will lose, Gustav responded while moving towards the southern ledge of the tall black rock. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.